Katie, can you send that to me also? Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dennis Peterson, Superintendent of Schools. Thank you for joining us for this month's School Board Recognition Program. We are always excited to share with you and celebrate the outstanding accomplishments of our students and staff. This month, we are honoring the academic achievements of our National Merit Commended Scholars, our Class of 2021 National Hispanic Scholar, and our students from the Class of 2020, 2021, and 2022 who have earned recognition as AP Scholars with distinction. We will also recognize our fall athletic teams and individual student athletes who have earned state qualifying level achievements. Although we know no Minnesota State High School League state competitions were held this fall due to the COVID pandemic, it has been a tradition at Minnetonka schools to recognize all state qualifying sports as part of our monthly school board recognitions program. And we are proud of all of our student athletes for their dedication to their sport during this challenging time. We are also honoring students who have earned 3 individual awards of excellence: the Design and Innovation Global Cultural Transformation Award, the Congressional Art Award, and the Moonbeam Children's Book Award. Finally, we will celebrate the results of Minnetonka Schools' annual Employee Charitable Giving Campaign. I extend a warm welcome to all honorees and their families who are watching this evening. We have some incredible academic achievements to share with you this evening. We ask our National Merit Commended students, National Hispanic Scholar, and the AP Scholars with Distinction to share with us an academic course or class project at MHS that has impacted their educational journey and shaped their future plans. Their responses capture a sample of the amazing learning opportunities available to our students. Before we recognize our academic award honorees individually, we will hear from the students who chose to share remarks with us.
Hi, my name is Peyton Crest and I'm a senior this year at MHS. Throughout my high school career, I've taken a multitude of courses that have not only impacted my education and future plans, but myself as a person. These classes, however, would have not prepared me if it weren't for my incredible teachers who have supported me throughout these past 4 years. Undoubtedly, teachers are what make MHS and AP courses an unparalleled environment to learn in. My teachers have challenged me, made me explore and question the world I live in, and inspired me. It has truly been an honor to take courses I am passionate about and to take them with such incredible guidance and support.
My name is Ben Arnold, and I am a junior. One class that has stuck out to me over the past 2.5 years is Honors English and Communications with Ms. Holt. It combined many different facets of English, including research, analysis, and communication. Ms. Holt always made the content interesting and taught in a way that made me really understand what I was learning and why. This motivated me to try the new AP seminar class this year, which I am really enjoying.
Hi, my name is Peter Keese, and I am a senior at Minnetonka High School. During my time at Minnetonka High School, I really enjoyed the Vantage Health Sciences class because it solidified my interest in pursuing medicine in the future.
Hi, my name is Jessica Weinberg, and I'm a senior this year. One class that has significantly impacted my education was my AP Literature and Composition class that I took last year as a junior. English has always been a passion of mine, but taking AP Lit gave me an opportunity to really explore that interest in an in-depth sort of way. And I'm hoping to take that interest and hopefully become a high school English teacher one day. That class definitely played a big part in me feeling more confident about that decision.
Hi, my name is Jake Rope, and I'm a senior here at Tonka. 2 classes that had a really big impact on me were BC Calc with Mr. Diamond and A-Push with Mr. Olivier. Both these classes had me really excited to learn every day. And whether it was learning about, the stories of people that built America, or it was, learning about some crazy application math I would have never thought of before. Both of these classes had strong content and even better people that made them experiences I'll never ever forget.
Hello, my name is Andrew Hale, and I'm a senior here at MHS. As I look back on my AP curriculum, one of the key experiences has got to be the AP US History course. As many of you know, that's a really hard course, and it requires constant attention and a fair level of grip. And that was something I didn't have going into the course. And but by the time I got out of it, I was really up and ready to go for all my other AP courses that I ended up taking. And I think that course, the lessons I've learned there, has contributed to my success in my academic career.
Hi, I'm Anna Geldert. I'm a senior. One program at MHS that has had a big impact on me so far has been the IB diploma program. I wasn't really sure what to expect when I joined IB as a junior, but so far I've really liked it. My classes are really interesting, and the community of students and teachers involved in IB is super supportive and fun to be around. I think IB has made me a better writer, a more creative thinker, and it's definitely a lot of work, but that work certainly pays off in preparing you for college.
My name is Eric Fredrickson. I'm a senior in MHS, and the class that had the greatest impact on me was my junior year AP Literature and Composition class. This class had a twofold impact on me. Firstly, it introduced me to authors such as Shakespeare, Hawthorne, and Bronte, from periods of literature that I hadn't experienced before. Writing about these authors made me a better writer, and it made me consider literary analysis in new ways. Secondly, my wonderful teacher, Mr. Kern, influenced me both through his delightful teaching style and through his book recommendations, because he recommended to me the author William Faulkner, whose incredible novels have changed my view of literature.
Hi, my name is Rebecca Thomason, and I'm a senior, and one AP course that's really had an impact on me was Mr. Barr's AP Computer Science Principles class. Going into my junior year, I had very limited experience with computer science, and I just knew it was something that really interested me. But throughout the year, I learned not just about coding in JavaScript or how the internet actually works, but also about solving problems, thinking critically, and collaborating with others. And Mr. Barr really showed us the fun side of computer science, and that's given me a passion for the field and the confidence to pursue it in the future. Thank you.
My name is Nathan Sun. I am a junior this year. One AP course that has impacted my education would be AP US History. This class was the first class that I had to take notes in, and so it also taught me how to take notes. Before, I also didn't really like history that much, but the teachers are really enthusiastic about teaching, and it just made the experience a lot better.
I think the Minnetonka course that most impacted my education was the first AP course I ever took, which was AP Physics in 9th grade, and the reason is AP courses are really just a build-up to this several-hour-long culminating exam, right? And instead of a course where it's just kind of in the moment, what's the next unit, what's the next homework assignment, you kind of are forced to have this view of the whole year, and consider that and be constantly reminded of it. And I don't really have proof of this, but I think it helps develop better study habits, and I think it had a positive impact on me, for sure.
Hi, I'm Aspen. I'm a senior. All of the classes that I've taken in the IB Diploma program have had a significant impact on my education, especially my IB Lit and IB History courses.
My name is Emil Den, and I'm a senior. One project that has significantly impacted my education was the inquiry project I completed in 10th grade as a Writing Center coach. First and foremost, being a Writing Center coach and taking the first-year coach Writing Center seminar class helped me grow tremendously, not only as a writer, but also as a communicator and a coach. My inquiry project, which focused on language and culture in the Writing Center and assisting ELL students in the writing process, allowed me to take all that I learned about writing and coaching and apply it to a real-world scenario in order to make a positive impact in our school and better meet the writing needs of ELL students at the high school through the Writing Center.
Hi, my name is Corey Lundgren, and I'm a senior, and if I had to name one class that I think really influenced me and my education, I would probably say it was AP Chem sophomore year. It really taught me how much I would have to work to get through all these classes that I was going to take, especially the next year, the junior, where I'd take like 3 AP classes. It taught me how hard I would have to work to get where I wanted to be.
My name is Tessa Lundheim, and I'm a senior this year. I've participated in AP classes since freshman year, and they have all impacted my education by giving me the chance to explore a wide variety of subjects in depth, from AP Spanish to AP Calculus. This year, I'm currently enrolled in AP Psychology, and I have just been fascinated about how nature and nurture influence so many aspects of human behavior. I'm planning on majoring in engineering, but I'm so glad to have had exposure to so many different fields thanks to AP classes.
Hi, my name's Cam Holland and I'm a senior. One class that really stands out to me was my IB Language and Literature course. One of our projects was to show our understanding of biased media, and for that I wrote about the same event but from two completely different points of view. I was surprised by how just changing which facts I emphasized and by adding a few emotionally laden words, I could completely change the tone and impact of a story despite the basic facts remaining the same. It taught me to be a very thoughtful consumer of the information that I'm being presented with and that I'm digesting. I think this is an important lesson we could all use in today's society.
My name is Patty Robin and I'm a senior. My AP Spanish immersion class, in addition to the entire Spanish immersion program, has significantly impacted my education. I've come to love learning languages and studying foreign cultures, two things that have always been intertwined in my immersion classes. In my AP Spanish class, we studied the traditions of various Spanish-speaking communities, which helped me grow to love learning about global issues from different perspectives. In college, I plan to study international relations and continue studying foreign languages. I will always be grateful to the Spanish immersion program and to my wonderful immersion teachers.
We'll begin by honoring the National Merit Commended Scholars from the class of 2021. The National Merit Scholarship Competition is held each year and recognizes students who score among the nation's best on the PSAT exam taken during their junior year of high school. In 2002, Minnetonka had just 2 National Merit semifinalists and 7 commended scholars. The class of 2021 has 15 National Merit semifinalists and 36 commended scholars. This is the second largest number of students recognized through this program in school history. Commended scholars will receive a medal and a letter of commendation from the National Merit Scholarship Corporation in recognition of their outstanding academic promise. In November, we recognized the National Merit semifinalists, and tonight we celebrate students who have earned National Merit Commended honors. They are William Anderson, Emma Baden, Julian Baker, Benjamin Binder, Priscilla Bundy, Ali Chan, Hari Haran Chaidambaram, Allison Crandall, Peyton Crest, Yermi Das, Eleanor Dolan, Kelly Engman, Owen Finch, Eric Fredrickson, Anna Geldert, Camden Holland, Andrew Hale, Lydia Heupel, Eli Hooker Reese, Peter Keys, Matthew Clem, Jay Krupp, Quinn Lee O'Halloran, Mara Levine, Zachary Levy, Emil Leiden, Virginia Morrow, Eleanor Petrin, Christian Poppy, Isaac Reeder, Patricia Robin, Cooper Shoshinsky, Aspen Schrupp, Robert Long, Graham Ward, and last, Lael Warren. National Hispanic Scholar. Tonight we are also recognizing one student from the class of 2021 who has been named a National Hispanic Scholar. The National Hispanic Recognition Program also uses results from the junior year PSAT as the qualifying test. Students who meet or exceed the score threshold are invited to complete an application and confirm a minimum GPA of 3.5. Many colleges sponsor scholarship awards for students who achieve this important designation. Congratulations to Emil Leiden for achieving National Hispanic Scholar. The next group of students from the classes of 2020, 2021, and 2022 have earned the AP Scholar with Distinction designation. To earn this honor, students have to have scored at least 3 or higher on 5 or more AP exams with an average of at least 3.5 on all exams taken. We recently calculated that 80.9% of the class of 2020 took at least one AP or International Baccalaureate course as part of their 4-year plan. Our high school offers 28 AP courses for which students can earn college credit and weighted grades for academic honors. In 2020, 1,658 Minnetonka students took 2,875 AP exams. The number of exams and courses taken is only one example of how Minnetonka students challenge themselves and prepare for their pursuits after graduation. Minnetonka students are well prepared to take AP exams. Their scores are exceptionally strong. On 84.7% of tests taken in 2020, students scored 3 or higher, which is considered the threshold to earn college credit. Because of their hard work and achievement on AP exams, these students are well positioned to enter college with credits earned during their high school. Many are on track to enter with sophomore or even junior standing. All AP scholars with distinction will receive a medal to acknowledge their accomplishment, which may be worn at graduation. We will now honor our AP scholars with distinction. For the class of 2020, we recognize the following students: Alexandra Abbott, Dominique Barrett, Elizabeth Batista, Nathan Bodger, Joshua Butcher, Ellie Copeland, Audrey Coate, McKenna Eggers, Josephine Erickson, Ariella Vogel, Ashley Frankwitz, Megan Fries, Emma Gross, Claire Hanley, Caden Hogdall, Claire Heaton, Caitlin Hermanson, Aditi Jayashankar, Daniel Johnson, Joseph Johnson, Gabrielle Jor, Eva Keim, Annie Keenan, Gavin Keithley, Quentin Keeney, Evan Comas, Emily Lampat, Abby Lewis, Nicolette Lindsay, David Mahanan, Michelle Mazzo, Ellie McKenzie, Justin Melander, Sydney Manji, Benjamin Norheim, Rowan McConnell, Isabel Osterhaus, Joshua Palm, Lucy Pelletier, Mary Petrosian, Gabriella Pfeiffer, Taylor Pint, Faith Quist, Walker Redding, Anna Reiger, Erica Schmidt, Donnie Luce Schuler, Barrett Seeley, Aidan Stadil, Emma Stevenson, Caroline Swenson, Madison Tan, Reese Thompson, Emma Tripp, Catherine White, Andrew Wilcox, Zhenyu Yen, and Dylan Zitzloff. Congratulations to all of you on this achievement. From the class of 2021, we recognize the following students as AP Scholars with Distinction: Alam Abduwali, Ella Albrecht, Christina Anderson, Trevin Anderson, Haley Andrews, Emma Baden, Aidan Barker, Lauren Benoit, Isaac Berlin, Benjamin Bender, Samuel Badeau, Kyle Briesermeister, Lex Byrne, Harrison Carney, Caitlin Carroll, Allison Crandall, Kaylee Crawford, Ermi Das, Eleanor Dolan, Matthew Eichelman, Callie Egeman, Haley Enns, Michaela Fernandez, Aaron Fiedler, Michael Ginsberg, Camden Halan, Edison Habas, Lydia Heipel, Dylan Horner, Gus Johansson, Owen Call, Charles Kiffin, Janeth Krupp, Sauve Lee, Evan Lee, Benjamin Lindeen, Lucia Lusbrook, Corey Lundgren, Tessa Lundheim, Kelsey Lunzer, Marcel Magyar, Allison Matson, Peter McNabb, Elliot Moe, Maya Moy, Francis Murphy, Molly Omi, Lena Pak, Eleonora Papp, Lily Peterson, Cale Pfeiffer, Benjamin Rackert, Madeline Raymaker, Isabella Richmond, Patricia Robin, Lauren Ross, Ethan Sandum, John Carl Schmidt, Cooper Shosinski, Marius Schuler, Michelle Seneschal, Maya Silver, Caitlin Skistad, Matthew Sundry, Bryce Sutphin, Benjamin Tang, Rebecca Thomason, Robert Wong, and Jessica Weinberg. Congratulations to each of you on this outstanding achievement. Lastly, from the class of 2022, we recognize the following students as AP Scholars with Distinction: Nathan Abraham, Benjamin Affolter, Benjamin Arnold, Andrew Birch, Nicholas Carver, Ava Shen, Zhao Ming Chen, Vlad Cibutaro, Kruthika Dama, Lucas Edwards, Yosef Aldashari, Ian Esser, Noah Friedman, Parker Griswold, Caden Hansen, Patrick Heitz, Hadley Herwig, Abby Hoekstra, Maximilian Horner, Claire Huang, Xander Hughes, Forrest Johnson, Eva Keshap, Grace Kong, Caden McDaniel, Ryan McWork, Emily Nikas, William Rook, Benjamin Rothman, Alexander Soto, Scott Sorensen, Nathan Sun, Zara Thomas, and Ratislav Volkov. Congratulations to each of you on this achievement. Next, we will recognize our fall sports teams and athletes who have achieved state qualifying level status. Minnetonka sports teams worked hard to compete this fall, joining together in camaraderie by following new safety regulations required because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We are proud of all of our athletes for their passion and their dedication. Congratulations to the following teams and individuals for their achievements. We'll start with boys cross country. MHS sophomore Nicholas Gillis and senior Joshua Conan earned state qualifying awards for the exceptional performances at the Section 6 AA cross country meet. Nicholas finished first overall with a time of 16 minutes, 12.2 seconds for 5,000 meters, and Joshua finished eighth overall with a time of 16 minutes, 36.3 seconds. The boys cross country team is coached by Jeff Renlund. Let's hear from them about their season.
Hi, I'm Jeff Renlund, the head boys cross country coach at Minnetonka High School. First of all, I'm so glad our boys and girls teams got to experience all of the practices and training together and the races this season. We had 62 boys out for the team this fall, and they all had the opportunity to compete in at least 5 quality meets. I couldn't be more proud of this team this season and the way they met their challenges. It was a real privilege coaching them, and I'm already looking forward to next season.
My favorite part of the season was definitely winning conference, just because it was kind of special to me because my coach, Jeff Renlund, he had won the conference when he was a sophomore back in 1985. So it was just kind of special because he did it, and then 35 years later, I'm pretty sure, I did it as his runner.
Congratulations, Nicholas and Joshua, to the boys cross-country coaching staff. Jeff Renlund, head coach, Jerry McNeil, assistant coach, Maxwell Guzara, assistant coach, Adam Wilkinson, assistant coach, and Pete Miller, assistant coach. The girls cross-country team earned state qualifying awards with runner-up performance at the Section 6 AA cross-country meet, finishing second place with 48 points. The girls cross-country team had an outstanding season of competition, which also included a first place at the Lake Conference Jamboree. Let's hear from the team about their season.
Hi, I'm Coach Jane Reimer-Morgan from the girls cross-country team. We had a fantastic season this year. We had 80 girls on the team. We practiced in 4 different pods at 2 different times so that we could have social distancing. The girls were fantastic in following the rules, and I am so proud of them. At one time, we were ranked 3rd in the nation. We were Section 6 AA runners-up, and I can't say enough about the attitude and the work ethic of these girls.
My name is Meredith Gillis, and I'm in 8th grade. This year was tough with COVID changing most of our plans. Lots of cross-country meets had to be worked around the virus. I'm very proud to say that we came in second in the unofficial state meet. The biggest moment probably that I've had this year was our very first time trial, where I made the varsity team and remained on varsity the rest of the year. This year has been very exciting for me, as it was my first high school season.
I'm Avery Morasco Johnson, and I'm an 8th grader at MMW. This is my second year running up with the high school girls cross country team. I think the most impactful moment of this year was around the first or the second meet, when we really saw, hey, we're really good. We have a shot to do something special. It was so great to have the same amazing coaches and the same hardworking teammates with us. I think what was so amazing for our team, and the thing I'm most proud of, is our flexibility and our ability to perform so well as a collective group, even when things got hard.
Hi, I'm Annalise Johnson. I'm a senior and one of the cross-country captains this year. One of my favorite memories from this season was getting second at the non-official state race, and also just being able to spend a lot of time bonding with my teammates and some of the younger girls on this team this year, despite all of the weird circumstances. So overall, it was a great season to end on.
Hi, my name is Abigail Downen, and I'm in 7th grade. This year was my first year running on the high school team. I was really excited about how this season went, and I was really happy to be on a team that was so successful. What made our team so great is that we worked hard, and also we had fun at every practice and became such good friends. I think how much we supported and encouraged each other really affected how we did in each race. I can't wait for next season. Thank you.
Congratulations to girls cross-country team members Abigail Downen, Meredith Gillis, Ella Graham, Annalise Johnson, Kate LeBlanc, Avery Morasco Johnson, Maya Moore, and Elizabeth Whiter. We would also like to congratulate the girls cross-country coaching staff on their work. In addition to their team accomplishments, head coach James Reimer Morgan was named Coach of the Year for Minnesota State High School League Section 6 AA, and to assistant coaches Krista Larson, Leanne LeBlanc, Christine Gurman, and Tanya Andruskevich. The girls swimming and diving team won the Section 2 AA meet. The section championship was also the 6th straight tournament victory for girls swimming and diving. This season, the girls swimming and diving team went undefeated in its dual meets and also won the Lake Conference title. Let's hear from them about their season.
Hi, I'm Craig Charleston, the coach for the girls swim and dive team. We had an excellent season this year with 81 girls out. The girls did a fantastic job following all the rules for COVID at practices and competitions. This year, the girls' successes were outstanding. They were undefeated in dual meets, won the conference title, and won the section championship. The coaching staff and I are very proud of the girls' successes and hard work.
Hello, I'm Addie Diaz. I'm a junior in MHS, and I'm on the varsity swim team. This year, I was super proud of our team for being able to work hard and have fun through all the tough times and all of the changes going on around us, and I think it was really this that helped us remain undefeated at the end of the season. I'm also super proud of and grateful for our captains, because without their dedication, we wouldn't have been nearly as successful as we were. And I think they really helped to make this season the absolute best that it could be.
The following athletes earned state qualifying awards with their individual performances. Congratulations to girls swimming and diving team members Adeline Diaz, Paige Dillon, Nadia Helm, Maja Congas, Abigail Capeller, Reagan Miller, Rachel Patton, Rachel Shellstead, Victoria Siegfried, Audrey Sutantu, and Quincy Wheeler. We would also like to congratulate the girls swimming and diving coaching staff on their work. Congratulations to head coach Craig Charlson and to assistant coaches Stephanie Venice, Katie Volheber, Tori Simonek, Marianne Grant, Delaney Ambrosen, and Sam Freitas. Girls tennis earned state qualifying awards by winning the Section 2 AA meet as a team. The girls tennis team went undefeated this season, winning both the Lake Conference title and the Section II AA crown. The team finished its season with a 14-0 record under the direction of head coach Dave Stearns. The girls tennis team also had an exceptional academic honor this year, with varsity team GPA of 4.11. This is the highest team GPA girls tennis has ever had. Let's hear from the team about their season.
Hi Minnetonka, girls tennis coach Dave Stearns here. The girls had a historic season justifying their #1 ranking with a school record undefeated 14-0 season. They captured the prestigious Lake Conference Championship and also the Section II AA Championship. That's great, but I am most proud of them for overcoming the news of not having a state tournament and instead dedicating this season to be the best in the school's history. I am proud of them and proud to be their coach. Nice going, girls. Well done.
Hi, I'm Annika Elvestrom, one of the captains of the girls tennis team. This year, obviously, the season was very, very different. We didn't have as many matches, but that didn't stop us from bonding as a team and getting through it together. We all maintained really positive attitudes through the whole season and always just hoped for the best, which I think really helped us as a team. I think my favorite memory from this season had to be when we beat Edina in the conference. You know, we didn't get a state this year, and I think that was very disappointing for all of us, and I can say that on behalf of all the girls. But I'm very happy that, you know, we got the next best thing. We beat Edina for the first time in years and years and years. And I think everyone's just hoping that we can do it again next year in the state tournament and actually get the title, which would be really awesome. But yeah, all in all, it was a great season, and I'm really proud of all the girls and how we're optimists, and even given all the challenges, we worked hard the whole time. Thank you.
Congratulations to the girls tennis team members, Sarah Burnett, Annika Elvestrom, Karina Elvestrom, Kate Feist, Erin Fiedler, Emily Jurgens, Megan Jurgens, Kariana Lean, Anna Longval, Emilja Medkuzatki, Kelsey Phillips, Ariana Piedrahita, Madeline Brzezinski, Ellie Samela, Sarah Shabazz, and Isabella Stroh. We would like to congratulate the girls' tennis coaching staff on their work. Congratulations to varsity head coach Dave Stearns and to assistant varsity coach Jim Elvestrom. Girls soccer earned state qualifying awards by winning the Section II AA tournament as a team, beating Edina with a score of 2-0. This is the third year in a row the girls soccer team has won the Section II AA tournament. Team captains Marley Bertagnoli and Lisa Mizzatoni were both named to all-state teams this season. The girls soccer team has also earned the Gold Academic Award with a 3.89 team GPA. Let's hear from the team about their season.
Hi, this is head girls soccer coach Jeff Hopkins. While this season was clearly unique, our program once again excelled, and we were able to follow safe guidelines while having 6 levels of teams and 115 players. Each team was highly competitive while playing the game they love. Our varsity team finished with an overall record of 9 wins, 3 losses, and 2 ties, finished as Lake Conference runners-up, were awarded the Gold Academic Award for achieving a 3.89 GPA, and we finished as Section II AA champions.
Hi, my name is Hope Dernberger. I am a sophomore and I was a defender on varsity. I think one of the biggest impacts that our team made was going in, we had lost to Wayzata, and then we were going to play them again, and we all came together as a team and pulled out the dub. And then I think one of our biggest successes was probably the win against Edina.
Hi, my name is Lissa. I am a senior and was one of the soccer captains this year. This season taught me the importance of making the best out of often less than ideal situations. Getting to see my teammates and coaches at practices and games every day became the highlight of my day, especially after hours of distance learning. While we couldn't do many of our normal traditions, we had fun and got better as soccer players. I believe that this program has made me a better person, teammate, and leader, and I feel really lucky to have been a part of this program. Thank you.
Congratulations to the girls soccer team. Members are Celia Aschheim, Marley Bertignoli, Clara Carver, Alexandra Dittrich, Julia Douglas, Hope Durenberger, Ella Dustrud, Emma Hansen, Averin List, Peyton Mahadi, Megan Mann, Alyssa Marceau, Reagan Meltz, Lissa Muzatani, Olivia Monberg, Tilly Nugent, Margaret Ravine, Ella Roach, Lauren Ross, Gabriella Ryan, Madeline Schultz, Tatum Starita, and Lael Warren. We also congratulate student managers Olivia LaRoche and Sophie Stout. Finally, we would like to recognize the girls' soccer coaching staff for their work. Congratulations to head coach Jeff Hopkins and to assistant coaches Scott Storley, Sarah Wheeler, and Steve Nugent. We now recognize a few individual awards earned by our students. Design and Innovation Cultural Transformation Award, Minnetonka Schools teamed up with Moving Minds, a K-12 focused furniture company based in Owatonna, Minnesota, during the 2018-19 academic year, because the company had a vision to make an impact in an educational environment by utilizing the people who knew it best, the students. This partnership provided middle school students participating in the Student Innovation Program a chance to improve their learning environment as they knew it. The end result of this project was the creation, production, and eventual sale of a product called the Storage Saddle. The Storage Saddle was nominated for and won the Design and Innovation Global 2020 Cultural Transformation Award. Other nominees in the category included Eaton, IBM, and the American Dental Association. Let's hear from the team that collaborated to win the Cultural Transformation Award.
Hi, my name is Wilson Lindberg, and I'm a sophomore. Working with Gopher Sport and Moving Minds has been an amazing experience. They helped us to create this idea, which started as a little sticky note on a whiteboard to now being a legitimate product on their website. They went to great lengths to help us achieve this goal. They took us to their headquarters in Owatonna and helped us to design and prototype our product. It's amazing to think that we, being awarded with the Cultural Transformation Award, all started with a little sticky note on a whiteboard.
Hello, my name is Mateo Schneider, and I'm a sophomore at MHS. And I'm very, very grateful to be receiving this award. When I signed up for Student Innovation Team at MME, I wasn't expecting to get this far. It was an amazing experience designing this product, and I'm very grateful for my team and for this opportunity. Thank you.
This is Joy Audio, and I'm in 10th grade this year, and thinking back on the storage saddle I helped design in 8th grade. It's amazing the amount of work and recognition that happened after we thought we had finished with it. I was a part of the innovation team at MNE for 2 years, and that time impacted me greatly. Not only did I get to see my designs come to life, but it also laid the groundwork for my future interest in design and innovation. Many things I have learned in this program are being taught to me today in my Vantage UX design class. So much of my life has been affected by this one project I did in middle school. I'd like to thank the school and everyone involved for making this possible.
Hello, my name is Sabrina Petrafetta, and I am a freshman at Minnetonka High School. Being a part of the Student Innovation Team has taught me to think outside the box in order to help others. And by achieving this award, it has set my mind on finding a career where I can use problem solving to help people in need.
We'd like to recognize the following students who were part of the team that won this award: Sabrina Petrafita, Wilson Lindberg, Sydney Bruins, Mateo Snyder, and Joy Audio. We would also like to recognize the teachers and staff members who supported these students: Julie Babe, Lisa Reed, and Nicole Snedden. Congratulations to everyone on this terrific achievement. Next, we would like to recognize MHS senior Lena Pak, who has earned a Congressional Art Award for her watercolor painting titled Fua Fua. Each spring, the Congressional Institute sponsors a nationwide high school visual arts competition to recognize and encourage artistic talent in the nation and in each congressional district. Since the Artistic Discovery Competition began in 1982, more than 650,000 high school students have participated. Students submit entries to their representative's office, and panels of district artists select the winning entries. Lena's work is now on display in the U.S. Capitol, along with other winning pieces from across the country. It will remain on display during this year as a representation of art from Minnesota's 3rd Congressional District. Congratulations, Lena. And we would like to recognize MHS senior John Brown, whose children's book, Quacky, Smacky, and Tacky, won a 2020 Moonbeam Children's Book Award for the best book by a youth author. John's book recreates the real-life experience he had as a 2nd grader, where he raised 3 mallard ducklings from their birth in the spring through their time to fly away and join a fall migration. John shared that it was wonderful to work with the book's illustrator, Alan Tollefson, who is a Minnetonka alum, and that he would like to praise Mr. Tollefson for his outstanding original art in the book. Congratulations on earning this honor for your writing, John. For the past 20 years, we've held an annual employee charitable giving campaign, altogether raising more than $1 million throughout the years to support nonprofit federations that assist those in great need. This year, our staff together raised our highest yearly total ever, nearly $77,400. All of the donations will support one of the 4 nonprofit federations, Creating Healthier Communities, Minnesota Environmental Fund, Open Your Heart to the Hungry and Homeless, and Greater Twin Cities United Way, or they will fund programs at designated charities selected by our employees. I believe our campaign was more important this year than ever, with all of the people who have experienced challenges due to the COVID-19 crisis. Many of our own students and their families will be impacted by these gifts. At each of our buildings in the district, we have campaign site coordinators who arrange activities and outreach efforts to staff in their buildings to promote engagement for the giving campaign. Tonight, we'll honor each site coordinator for their amazing contributions in bringing our staff together to accomplish this wonderful fundraising effort. Colleagues, together you raised nearly $77,400, the highest we've ever raised in the 20 years we've held our annual giving campaign. I'm grateful to each of you. I know this was not an easy ask for you this year, but the donations you raised are desperately needed by many people who are struggling this year due to the impact that COVID has had on their lives. As I read your name, please give a wave. David Wickland, Clear Springs Elementary. Annalise Peterson, Deep Haven Elementary. Stephanie Brandani, Deep Haven. Laura Nelson, Excelsior Elementary. Andrea Hoffman, Groveland Elementary. Lisa Egger, Minnetonka Elementary. Carly Brown, Minnetonka. Joe Walker, Scenic Heights Elementary, and Jason Reeder, Scenic Heights Elementary. Jacob Westman, MME. Margaret McDonald, MMW. Sarah Hunt, MMW. Jennifer Stout, MHS. Jennifer Breidenbach, MHS. Dominique Gilmer, MHS. Aubrey Rowley, MHS. Mercedes Scott, MCE. Lindsay Richards, MCE. Amy Ledoux and the Teaching and Learning Team, Matt Riga, Nicole Snedden, Dave Eisenman, Sarah White, Diane Runquist, and Steve Urbanski, District Service Center and Tech Center, and Campaign Coordinator for the United Giving Overall Program, Dr. Jackie Getty. Congratulations on a great job, Jackie. Thank you again to each of you, and I would also like to thank each staff member who participated in this effort and who gave so generously. Congratulations, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this evening of celebration and recognition.
Oh. Good evening. I would like to call the Truth and Taxation hearing to order. Dr. Peterson?
Madam Chair, members of the board, the Truth and Taxation hearing is a requirement under Minnesota statutes for governmental entities in Minnesota. And it's always the first meeting you have in December. And Mr. Bourgeois is going to go over some of the details of the district's finances and the levy and budget. And then we'll open it up for input from taxpayers, which they were given an opportunity to submit their comments up through noon today. And we're going to consolidate a little bit of the agenda tonight by having Mr. Bourgeois do a thorough presentation during this part of the meeting, and then we won't repeat the presentation later when you cover that item in the agenda. So keep in mind that board members can weigh in at that point in the agenda. So the board has worked hard on the levy this year, and Mr. Bourgeois has pulled all the numbers together from the state of Minnesota, and we're able to offer a pretty low increase this year, which I think is going to be welcomed by taxpayers in the district. In fact, I know from my own preliminary tax statement, my school taxes are actually going down. So I'm guessing that a lot of people in the community are going to see their school taxes at least go down a little bit. But Mr. Bourgeois will cover those details for you in a moment. So, Mr. Bourgeois, are you ready? I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Pearson. Madam Chair, members of the board, and citizens of ISD 276. We've got a short presentation here to go through the levy, and there's at the levy hearing we're required actually to go over the district budget for 2021, our proposed tax levy for taxes payable in 2021, and then our comment that would be calendar 21, that would be for collecting in 21. A couple things, just miscellaneous housekeeping items, but funding for school districts is highly regulated by the state. State sets the formulas which determine the revenue. Most revenue is based on specific amounts per pupil. Some are actually combinations of state and local aid making up the dollar amount per pupil, such as our Q-Comp revenue is one example. The state sets tax policy for local schools. It decides how much is taxed locally, and then how much is taxed, in terms of the formulas, how much is then taxed or filled and set at the state. The state also sets a maximum authorized property tax levy. It's mandated that we set the levy in September, and we cannot do any more than what is the maximum amount authorized by the state, which is the maximum amount of the various funding formulas, unless voters would approve an operating referendum or a building bond referendum in a November election. That's the only option to add to the levy after September. And of course, we have to submit referendums for operating and capital needs to the voters for approval. The other important thing to note is the change in tax levy does not determine a change in the budget. There's about 40 different formulas for basically levying taxes. Some increases in the levies are neutral. If you increase the tax levy in one area, it might offset with state aid. Sometimes there's matches that you will have from the state, and if you don't levy from at the local levy in the local area, you'll won't get the state dollars besides. The expenditure budget is limited by our state revenue formulas, and then the revenue limits the expenditures per year. There's voter-approved levies in the fund balance. That's the available resources in a given budget. And then an increase in the school tax does not always equate to an increase in the overall district budget. Our school district budget is divided into separate funds. As required by law, we need to keep separate revenues and separate expenditures in these various funds. There's our general fund, which is the biggest fund, and when people in school districts are talking about reducing the budget, typically they're talking about the general fund operating fund. Then there's the food service fund, community service fund, building construction, which is basically funded off of bonds in terms of revenues, a bond being issued, and then something being constructed. Debt service is actually the payment of bonds. There's trust funds, which are held for donations that are given to the district and then spent for specified expenditures that the donor has indicated are the requirement to be spent on. Internal service funds, we actually have in a health insurance fund, which is funded primarily by premium contributions from school district employees, and then also the district has part of their fringe benefits. Dollar amounts go in from both sources, both employee and employee fringe benefits, to pay for health insurance and dental insurance. Then we have something called the OPEB trust, which is other post-employment benefits. And that's a trust fund that was set up to pay off pension liabilities that were contracted by past school boards up through 2002, but then were basically stopped at that point in time. But we were able to set up a bonding situation where we were able to issue some bonds and fund a trust, and then the earnings on that money actually pays off those long-term liabilities. And then there's debt service on those bonds. So in this budget information, only the current year budget information is presented. And the fiscal year 22 budget, which a lot of these levies will fund, will be adopted by the school board in June of 2021. So this is just where we're at currently. This is a summary of where we're at for fiscal 20 actuals. We're required to provide this information, fiscal 20 actuals, fiscal 21 budget. For fiscal year 2020, we basically ended up with, in our general fund, we ended up with a fund balance, restricted fund balance, which actually for state purposes includes operating capital and our capital projects fund of about 2.46 million. And then our general fund, which is the rest other, which is our traditional general fund that in terms of the way we account for it in-house before we have to roll it up for the final submission to the state, about $30 million overall total fund balance. Community Service Fund was able to finish with about a $1.55 million fund balance at the end of the year in spite of having some difficulties with the drop in revenue from being shut down from March 16th through June 30th because of the closing of schools. Same thing with the Community Service Fund. It finished with about a $1.138 million fund balance. Normally, both of those funds actually have a slight surplus every year, but both of those funds were impacted by the shutdown and the significant loss of revenue with the quarantine for COVID-19. And actually, as we go through both this year's budget and then future budgets, that actually the impacts of COVID-19 are going to ripple their way through. The Building Construction Fund basically ended up with about $1.3 million at the end of the year. That fund is always funded with specific bond proceeds. And so if there were to be a point in time where we weren't doing any building construction, you'd end up getting down to zero after you spent all the funds on the projects that your bonds for construction were issued for. But we had construction in process going forward into fiscal 21. Our debt service fund ended up with about $2.2 million. That gets accumulated primarily because on all the general obligation bonds that we issue, we're required to actually levy 5% more than 1.05% more than what the annual debt service payment is. And that's set in state statute because they want to make sure that we have enough bond proceeds or levy proceeds available to make bond payments in case some taxpayers are delinquent and collections are not at 100%. So those build up over time, and then eventually every year they're actually parceled back out to reduce future levies. So they do get returned to the taxpayers if they're not spent. We have a trust fund that shows zero there, but actually the funds still stay there. There's been an accounting change that required us to take our trust funds and move them into what's called fiduciary funds, which technically then they're not part of our books because the control of the expenses of those funds actually still is in the hands of the entity that we're keeping the books for as a fiduciary. You see our internal service fund, that is our health insurance fund, and we actually ended up with an increase in fund balance there to about $8.3 million, up from $5.2 million, because We are still collecting our normal premiums out of our employee our employee payroll deductions, and then the fringe benefit payments. But from March 16th until the end of the year, actually the activity in health insurance, care and health care, dental care just dropped like a rock in a pond. It just went straight down. And so we actually ended up getting the same amount of revenue in, but having way less expenses. So we're looking at a situation where we'll be able to utilize that going forward, possibly to moderate future premiums for a couple of years. Our trust fund for OPEB is $23.3 million at the end of June 30th, 2020. Their liability is actually about $11.4 million, but the income on those assets is what's paying about $800,000 a year in payments to the general fund to offset the cost of the payments for the retiree health benefits that were contracted for in prior years. And then we have a debt service fund, and there's a little bit, again, accumulated there for the same reason with the additional 5% that we have to levy, and that's the payments on the bonds that were issued to fund the debt service fund. When you get to fiscal 21, you'll see that we actually have a couple things related to timing differences in our general fund restricted and then our building construction fund, because we adopted this the budgets for all of our fiscal 21 in June, but then we closed our books June 30th and actually later. But what we were able to do, because our schools were closed, is we actually accelerated some of the projects that needed to be done, and some of them were going to be more comprehensive and a little bit longer length and might have dragged on into what might have been the school year starting up again, which we didn't know at the time. So we took advantage of that time and we accelerated some of the expenditures into fiscal 20, but then what's happening is with the budget, we have our adopted budget, which is still the same as it was set in early June, and it'll be amended in January, and so what'll happen is some of those accelerated expenses are still showing as budgeted expenses in 21. Those will be adjusted out, and basically those two negative balances that you see on there related to construction projects will basically come down to zero or positive. So just wanted to make a note of that. In our general fund, the same thing. We actually are showing approximately break even, a little bit of a drawdown there, but again, in the general fund, we also have not only our general fund, under general fund other, but it includes the Payable Center, it includes the Dome, it includes our activities funds, all those types of things. So there's a couple of other pieces in there. Our general fund that we budget in-house, where we separate those out, we are basically budgeting a $515,000 surplus in the budget book that you would look at online on the district website. But basically, that budget will also change because of COVID-19, because there's been so much uncertainty, and we've had to basically adjust our learning model to be able to get our students in school as long as possible. Of course, just recently we switched back out of the learning model that was allowing students to be in school, or a significant number, and have had to go to all distance learning. But in order to get that learning model operational, and then again to have it ready, hopefully on January 4th when we go back to having some of the students being able to be in the school, we basically had to hire approximately 100 FTEs to make that work, because we had to drop our class sizes down to 15 per basically state mandate. And we had to hire additional paraprofessionals to be in certain classes while the teacher was teaching in one, and then they would flip-flop and the teacher would go into the second room, because normally we're in the 20 to 25 range. And so we had to basically have more people handling less numbers per students. The thing is that's an expense that will be impacted. Some of that is being offset by the revenue that we're getting from the state. That's, again, this is on the adopted budget, but I'm just letting you know that these budget numbers will change. But we will have an impact on our general fund. But the main thing to remember about that, and I'm talking about this a little bit because it's there, it's a reality. But we put a lot of armor on the battleship, so to speak, over the last 10 or 12 years in terms of building up a fund balance. And anything that's not covered by the federal government, we have sufficient fund balance, sufficient rainy day fund. And I've used the term, if this isn't a rainy day, what isn't? It's really more like a monsoon. And we can't give up on the students. We have to do whatever we can to make sure that they can keep up. And so we're fortunate that we have the resources to do that. So I just wanted to make note of that because we're showing a projected fund balance of $31 million at the end of June 30th, 2021. It will be lower somewhat by several $1 million because of what's going on. But again, we've had the resources to do that. Our community service fund, it was budgeted to be at approximately our food service fund was budgeted to be at just under a break even for this year. And actually, even though we have less students in school and less taking lunches, we're still going to be approximately break even for the year. Our community service fund also budgeted a slight surplus, and they're managing that very tightly to make that happen, regardless of the fluctuation in revenue based on how many classes they can hold or how many activities, such as the youth basketball leagues and things like that they can hold. I mentioned a building construction fund that's related to the particular item related to having some construction costs fall more in fiscal 20, primarily that's related to long-term facility maintenance funds, and the other one is related to the community education fund, which is up in that, our community education addition, which is up in that restricted fund balance. And then our debt service fund, we'll make our debt service payments, and we project about $1.8 million, and that actually will be not change really very much at all because our debt service payments are what they are. And then again, you see the internal service fund, where we had budgeted approximately break even, maybe a slight surplus, but and depending on what happens with how people are doing, we noticed that some of the activity and healthcare costs are actually declining a little bit as the cases have gone up. And we've kind of gone into this kind of more of a shutdown again. So that might impact that, similar to last year, we'll see. And our revocable trust, we're expecting to basically have a balance of over $23 million. And actually, that's a very conservative projection of revenues on that this year. With the investments in there are actually invested in the same thing that the State Board of Investment invests in, which is a lot. There's actually able to invest in stock market investments under the direction of a professional professional financial advisor. And then you see again, our debt service fund will be flat. So you're talking about ending up with, it's a very large operation, over $190 million of expense activity on a given year, of which the vast majority of it, $140 million is $140 million plus is the general fund. So that's one slide, but there's a lot on there that we're required to talk about. So this is the general fund that is the one that we keep kind of separate from the other components of the general fund that we report to the state. So it all gets reported to the state. But this is our operational general fund budget for this year that was adopted in June, about $137 million. And you can see the state of Minnesota provides about 72% with primarily the basic revenue, which is $6,567 per pupil this year. Local property tax levies provide about 25% of the total revenue. Biggest chunk of that is actually the operating referendum that's been approved by the voters. And then the local optional revenue, which had been part of the operating referendum approved by the voters, and then the state actually took it and took a chunk off of that and set it aside and made that be a permanent allocation for our district, but also then other districts. And then we actually have a relatively small number of federal programs, Title I, Title II, Title IV, those types of things. Most other districts have many more federal government allocations and revenues than we do. And then other local and county revenues, there's interest earnings, there's donations, and we have an incredible populace in terms of donations to the school district. And so those are the major components. The expenditures by object code are listed here. Wages and salaries are just under $92 million, and they're 67.2%. We are a people-intensive business, and even with all the technology, it still takes good people doing great things with kids to help them be successful. And employee benefits then for these employees are about $28.4 million and 20.8% of the budget. So wages and salaries and employee benefits, basically employee costs, are 88% of our general fund operating budget. Everything else, turning on the lights, buying supplies, plowing the snow, all those other types of things are basically, running operations, at the district service center, all that other kind of stuff. That's about 12%. So you can see purchase services are about 10.8 million at just under 8%, and supplies are 2.6%. We have a small number of capital expenditures budgeted in the general fund. And then we also make some bond payments on a couple of bonds that are actually then funded indirectly by community education and by aquatics. And then there's various miscellaneous costs. So, and then the transfer is actually, that's actually the salaries and benefits for the Art Center. And then the Art Center on an operational basis uses all the revenues from the plays to break even on the operational piece of it. So that's what makes up the $136.7 million adopted expenditure budget. And again, we're going to be amending that in the first part of FY20 or calendar year 21. So let's get to the property tax levy. We have a comparison of 2020 to 2021, and then the reasons for the changes in the levy, and then the impacts. So just a couple of short items of note. Each school district can levy taxes there's over 40 different categories. We don't levy in every one of those, but there's different possibilities. For instance, we don't get a taconite levy or anything like that, but we do have a bunch of them. State law sets the amount that you can levy for each category, and then of course if you run a referendum for a building bond or for operations, voter approval then sets that. Although with the operating referendum, the State Department of Education has a levy maximum, and the state actually has a maximum amount that you can ask for an operating referendum. Originally, way back in the day, there was actually technically no limit, and then the state started putting limits on that. For the 2021 levy, the proposed tax levy is an increase of about $1,041,000. That's about 1.9%. So the reasons for the increases and decreases are on the following slides. This is actually another quite busy slide, but it's actually condensed from the numbers that are actually on the actual board item that the board is going to approve and talk about a little bit later. But basically, these are general fund levy categories. We're up about 1.7% in the general fund. We're up about 0.7% in the community service fund. Debt service is up about 2.9%, but the reason for that is we actually dropped a bit last year the way our payments were scheduled, and we actually did some refundings that actually saved the taxpayers money, and they did that not only on a net present value basis, but we also had a one-year drop in our levy. So that 2.9% is up 2.9% from last year, but we're actually about where we were a couple of years ago, and we try to keep that overall debt service levy relatively flat. And so far, knock on wood, we've been able to do that. So again, you see at the almost bottom line, the total levy for all funds is $55,245,358, a $1,041,000 increase, 1.9%. And then there's a breakdown of how much of the levy is voter approved and how much is basically set by the state. And again, 31.2 million almost is voter approved, and 24.1 million is actually then set by the other items. So some of the larger changes that were listed on there is the voter-approved operating referendum and local optional revenue components. The net change is $865,000. Basically, the operating referendum authority includes an annual inflation increase, and that was $48 per pupil on this calculation. And then we also grew our enrollment by 88 from the prior year, from about just under 10,900, just under 10,000, we were about 10,965 or so the prior year, and then we're up to 11,054 this year. So we grew by 88. And so that's additional dollars amount per pupil that we can levy for the formulas where we have actually a levy capability given to us by the state. Then we have what's commonly called the technology levy. It's technically called the capital projects fund and capital projects referendum. This is the fund, though, where we pay for all of our instructional software and our hardware, our support, instructional technology of all types, all the various myriad of hundreds of actual software titles that we have to pay licensing fees every year. And this is a levy that's based on it says a voter-approved tax rate, which is 6.569% of net tax capacity. Net tax capacity is based on the tax base. It takes all of the property value in the district, which is over $9.5 billion this year, actually an increase of about 4.6% over just over $9 billion a year ago. And it multiplies that through a series of formulas depending on the property tax type to get tax capacity, and then that's multiplied by 6.569%. So that went up about $329,000, but basically we are at almost $7 million on that levy. We are at $6.916 million for this particular levy, up from $6,586,000 a year ago. In a general and debt service fund, we actually have two things that kind of work together. We had a $78,000 reduction in a couple of general fund items related to some of those other bond payments, and then our debt service fund went up $678,000. They were basically related to long-term facility maintenance bonds, but again, we were actually down lower last year than we were the year before, so it kind of was a dip and we went back up. Long-term facility maintenance is the way that we take care of the 1.8 million square feet and 255 acres of land in the district, and we do approximately $4.9 million worth of work on our 1.8 million square feet, so it's about less than $2.50 per year per building. And it's an investment to basically make sure that we value the assets that have been paid for in the past by past generations and continue to use them. Actually, basically 60% of our square footage is over 50 years old or older. Our newest school, in terms of originally being built, was Scenic Heights back in 1967. So it's the newest, brand new school that we built is now 53 years old. So it takes money to keep them up in a state of good repair and support our operations. And so this debt service for long-term facility maintenance is where we actually have the primary amount of our outstanding bonds, because we bond for these long-term maintenance items because they're long-lived, and we basically then pay for them over the cost of the life of the improvement. So there's roofing, there's paving, there's replacing the HVAC systems, upgrading the boilers, replacing windows, all those types of things that you have to do, well, really kind of for your house, but you have to do it on a much greater scale for our 1.8 million square feet. And just for sake of comparison or context, if you had to replace all of our buildings at current construction costs, our 1.8 million square feet, it would be about $540 million, over $500 million to replace our buildings. So putting approximately $5 million into them to keep them in a state of good repair and ready for the next 40 or 50 years is a prudent investment. Then we have our instructional lease levy. This is related to lease payments on instructional space where we added classrooms or music rooms or the gymnasiums at the elementary schools. And so we actually have a cap of about $2.5 million. And actually the reason for this increase is the same thing as the last one. We actually had a dip last year because we did some refunding and we got some one-time savings and some long-term savings. And so actually, and that goes back to the taxpayers then. And so this levy is actually going back up to about 2.5 million, which is about where it was before. And then there's about 20 prior year adjustments in all categories. And this year, they are lower than they were last year. There's by about 704,000, but the biggest adjustments are actually related to our operating referendum and our local optional revenue, because what we do is we estimate how many students we have and we get to levy that. And then what happens is at the end of the year, we get actual numbers. And the actual numbers then are then adjusted on the next levy. So if you are actually, if you had more students come in the door than we thought, we actually have a little more revenue that then kicks in. And so the difference between this is we had a prior year adjustment of $813,000 on the referendum levy a year ago to the positive, and now we have a positive adjustment also of $139,000. So that's $674,000 of the $704,000 difference. Yeah, so it's a smaller adjustment. So it actually dropped. So now we'll start talking about how will that impact your taxpayer school taxes. The biggest factors that increase an individual taxpayer's school taxes are the changes of the individual in the value. There's always a certain amount of properties, typically 25% or so, in the district that get reassessed every year based on market value. And, but then also, if there's more new construction in the district and there's more property, that means there's more property value to spread the taxes on. And we do know there's a lot of construction activity, particularly on the west end of the district in Hennepin County, but also in Chanhassen, and the part of Chanhassen that's in our school district. And then if sometimes there's different increases or decreases in some of the funding formulas because the state says, hey, this year we can pay more, so your levy goes down, or this year we can't pay more, we can pay less, and then your levy goes up on some of those formulas that actually have combined funding to get the total. So the next slide shows a four-year levy comparison, and it's on property taxes from calendar 2018 to calendar 2021. And it's based on an 11% increase in property value over this four-year period, which is about how much we've been able to add over that time. But this is just an estimate based on these particular assumptions. So if you're scoring at home, your results may vary. Like I said, typically, if you've been assessed, you'll have a different result than some of the things, reassessed, you'll have a different result than where we're at. But this slide is a little bit, and the examples are for the city of Minnetonka. So this slide's a little bit difficult to understand, but I want to explain it because what it does is it assumes that a house that has a market value of $300,000 this year, 4 years ago had a market value of $270,334. So in other words, a person living in that abode that was worth $270, now it's worth $300, but this is what that person's property taxes would have been from our district over that period of time. And so you can see somebody with a $270,000 house, which is the far left column, and now an estimated market value for 2021. They were paying $1,415, but their house is worth more at $300,000, so they'd be paying $1,581. So they've had a 4-year change in taxes of $166. So they see, about $40 increase. Their change in taxes because of their value going up ends up being, about a $19 increase. Now, again, property values across the district went up a total of 4.6%. So obviously a $19 increase is not a 1.9% increase. It's a smaller increase also. So what that means is their tax increase, because they were reassessed, went up by less because less than what the percentage of reassessment was, because a chunk of that of the taxes we're levying was actually picked up by more properties in the district. So we have the array there of housing, but even at on the top end we show a $900,000 house, and the change in taxes this year would be about $66. That's assuming they got reassessed up from $863,000. So in some respects, reassessments are like kind of showing the worst case scenario. So here's an example then of charts showing a couple of homestead property values based on that they went up, but they also were reassessed. So again, you remember in this $300,000 example was worth $274,000 in 2018. And there's a $700,000 and a $900,000. So going up, but not super fast. But now this is based on a home with an estimated market value that was basically flat. And you can see that this year, so if they're held flat at $500,000, this is where they had been at over the years. This year it's dropping. So if a person has had the same property value, they would see their property taxes drop. The other thing that's important to remember is, again, our property taxes went up, property tax proposed to be going up by 1.9% is going to be spread on 4.6% more property. Some of that 4.6% growth is reassessment, but a lot of that is new construction. And to the extent that the new construction equals more than 1.9%, of that 4.6, you would basically have a situation where Dr. Pearson, where he mentioned that his actually went down slightly. So some taxpayers might see theirs go down, some will stay flat. Depending on reassessments, they may end up going up a bit. But again, in the worst case scenario, the $900,000 house was a $66 increase. So then the next steps we have to do then is accept public comments on the proposed levy. And then we'll certify the 2021 property tax levy during the official board meeting. Finally, so here's the total tax levy. It breaks out by the general fund, 45.3 million, community service just under $1 million, and the debt service about just under $9 million, for a total of $55,245,358. And so that's the run through of the property tax levy. And if people have detailed questions, also we'll do our best to answer them, but they can always contact us at 952-401-5000. And be glad to talk to them and walk through their property tax statements with them, and because sometimes some people have unusual ones, and oftentimes they might have gotten reassessed by a lot, or they might have done some things like done a remodeling or done an addition, and so they have actually a bigger jump in their property value besides reassessment, and so you got to talk through those to help them understand how that all lays out. So be glad to do that if needed.
Great, thank you. And so now would be the time for community comments. Carrie, the public had until noon to email any comments. Did you receive any?
We did not.
You did not. So we have no community comments this evening, or public comments. So thank you for the report this evening. We will adjourn the Truth in Taxation hearing. Thank you. And we're gonna roll right into our board meeting. Andy, are we good to go? I think so. So I would like to call the, I would like to call the December 3rd, 2020 school board meeting to order. Can we all rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right. Just a couple of reminders for the board before we adopt tonight's agenda. We are operating underneath the virtual statute, so we're going to have to move everything to a roll call vote. And you also have a carry-in item that was given to you before the meeting for the consent agenda. So just a reminder on that. Can I have a motion to approve, or excuse me, to adopt tonight's agenda? Actually, Andy, I'm sorry, I can't see the grid. Can you just so I can see the board? Yep, there they are. There's the board. Hi, everybody. All right. Can I have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda? I see Lisa, thank you. And then Chris over here, can you guys can't see Chris since the screen is the grid, but I'll try to keep everybody virtual apprised. So Chris, thank you for the second. And then we're going to move to a roll call vote.
Board members, when I call your name, if in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Board member Ambrosen?
Aye.
Board member Becker?
Aye.
Board member Holcomb?
Aye.
Board member Lesage?
Aye.
Board member Ritchie?
Aye.
Board member Vitale?
Aye.
Board member Wagner?
Aye.
Thank you.
Great. All right. So we have an agenda this evening. We're going to move to our first agenda item, which is our school report from the high school this evening. Dr. Peterson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. We all enjoy the great reports Jeff Erickson and his team provide from the high school. And despite the fact that the building is relatively empty right now, except for a few 4th and 5th graders and some teachers who come in to present from the school, and of course our great principals, there's a lot going on at the high school and the e-learning, and so they have done a great job this fall, and we're moving ahead with plans for next year and the great program that we'll have to offer. We're expecting to have everybody back in the building, hopefully before the end of this school year, but certainly for next year, and we need to get ready for them. So Mr. Erickson is going to give you a report on the Momentum program tonight, which was named last year and encompasses some of the things that we've been doing and some new programs. So I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Erickson.
All right, thank you, Dr. Peterson. Madam Chair, members of the board, it's great to be here tonight to share what's been happening in the Momentum program. We were here last January of 20, giving you some of the preliminary work about this change and the name change to Momentum. And recall back to the student groups that we met with that change from calling it Minnetonka Trades or the Technology Education Program really wasn't intentional. The Momentum was meant to be something of an aspirational goal, that it is beyond what we're currently doing. And this year with the new strand, the home renovation physics strand, this is our first significant change in the program to really live up to that name. And we've talked about some other courses that we're proposing as well. So in spite of having a kind of a hybrid e-learning approach, this program really has hit it out of the park. And tonight I want to share with you some things that we've been doing and really some of the great work that our team of teachers has been working on to make it happen. And in talking about working creatively, finding programs and access for our students, you'll see some of the pictures, a little bit of the video, just the great work that's been happening to live up to that change we talked about a year ago. So I always come back to that idea. We look at a profile of a student and the idea of engagement. And so you'll hear in the video students talking about hands-on learning. So one of the strands, or the strand we're going to talk about in detail, is the home renovation physics strand. And so it is a combination of science and a technology education course. So they're having a rigorous science experience, the physics side of it, and they'll talk about how am I going to use this information, a question we're often asked, and you'll hear, and the students know, why am I learning this? So that ties into our profile of that outside partner, that outside mentor, that experience they're having, and also that high level of engagement. That instruction that we come back to, that it's meaningful, it's rigorous, it's engaging, and the students have really found that connection. And you'll see in some of the photos, we have our students that are happy, they're part of our community, they're engaged, and they're really feeling purposeful of the work they're doing. It would not be a high school presentation if I didn't come to this slide with all the different programs that we have going on as we expand. And many of these have been added in the past few years. In the upper left, you see the Momentum logo, and our commitment to having amazing programs for all students, helping students find their passion, broadening their horizons, and all these opportunities work for our students. We want students to find one thing, at least hopefully that they find their passion, and that's really happened within this program. So we were here almost a year ago to talk about this specific program, looking at the curriculum, having a guiding team of leadership that helped us come up with the program and the opportunities that we have. That has really been a critical part of whether it be the Vantage program, science research, or that outside area of experts to help us guide the work, whether it be instruction. The exciting part, as you'll see, we've had some of our alumni be part of our guest instruction panel of work that they're doing. So that outside component is critical to the work that we're doing. A lot of work was done this summer, virtually and in person when we could, to realign the curriculum and to develop this curriculum. We did not have this combination of physics, for example, home renovation at the same time. In that outside experience, we often call, what's the secret sauce that creates that level of engagement? And that is the outside mentor, it is the guest instruction, it is going on site to do the work. So in spite of not having the most ideal scenario of not being in person all the time, they have done a lot and have really used some creative ways to make that happen for them to have some of those outside experiences. And the last piece, authentic task projects, expert speakers, visits, site visits, all those things have happened in the first 4 months within the program. Just as you look at the totality of the program, not just within the strand I'm going to talk about tonight, just the number of students and the level of interest. The focus groups we had a year ago now really helped guide all of the decisions that we were making in terms of this particular strand. As you know, one of the new courses that we have on the list for tonight for your consideration approval is the automotive course. That was one other piece that came out of that focus group. So the last bullet I think is interesting. We have 56 seniors that are taking a tech ed class for the first time and being part of that. So when I look at the home renovation, that is, over the past few years, has been one of the most popular courses that we've launched, just because the skills that you're learning in there are skills that no matter what you're doing will be beneficial to everyday life. So that's been a popular course. So this year, we launched the physics of home renovation, and then we also offered a metal sculpture class. And tonight we're going to talk about the physics of home renovation. So I'm going to give you a brief minute-and-a-half video that encapsulates what's been going on. If this were a normal scenario, we'd have all the teachers with us tonight. We'd have some students with us. So thanks to the great work of Andy Smith and the communications, he's been able to encapsulate that in about a minute-and-a-half video that I will put on right now.
The course is a combination of a applied physics course and an extension of the existing home renovation course we had at Minnetonka High School as part of the Tech Ed program. We're trying to get students actively engaged and engrossed in the life of a trades professional.
Being able to talk to a lot of those professionals that are out there right now, giving the kids that experience, being able to ask some of the questions and get real world answers for them.
We're always looking for the practical application of whatever we're teaching. It's not something that we add on after the fact or look for a useful lab. It's sort of where we start. You always hear a kid say, well, how am I going to use this in the future? And since I'm starting a lot of my lesson plans with that in mind, I can really say with some confidence, this is what you really need to know, and this is what you're going to see in the future. We learned how to calculate stresses in trusses and in structures, and we simulated that on the iPad. The kids designed it, and then they built it and tested it, and then improved it from there.
We were fortunate enough to get involved with Habitat for Humanity, so we were able to get out and actually help work on some homes, whether it was framing them, or painting, or just restoring them. So we got to do a lot of really cool work with Habitat and actually on the job site in the local community. We have also had numerous guest instructors and virtual site visits, HGA and RJM, these large architectural design firms. We had a former student actually who now works in construction stop by, and that was really cool as well.
It's different because it's way more hands-on than a typical class. I am someone who loves working with my hands and building stuff. If someone even has the slightest interest in signing up for a momentum class, do it.
So one of the things that with our videos, and you'll be able to say this is obviously from this fall because of the number of masks and all the new things that are going on, but that just gives you a snapshot of a couple of things that have been happening within the program. This is a photo of one of our students as they work for Habitat for Humanity. They were just thrilled to have our students on site and just impressed with their commitment and dedication. And they've had other activities. They've done the Insights training with Scott Schweifel, so they've had that opportunity to learn how do you work collaboratively. So it's been a rich experience, and my expertise does not extend into the science area, so one of our lead administrators in this project has been Assistant Principal Ann Hanstead. Has done just a tremendous amount of work in frequent at least weekly meetings with the team to help put this together. So I'm gonna turn it over to her to go through the science part of it, and I'll come back at the end. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson, Madam Chair, Dr. Peterson, members of the board. It is wonderful to join you again this evening and just shed a little more insight. And it's certainly no mystery. You do not have to twist my arm to talk about science. But this has just been a really cool blend of two courses. And so Mr. Durkee, who is our resident science expert, has really teamed with Mr. Barr and Mr. Eby to think creatively about that scope and sequence and identify those opportunities to bring what sometimes just appeared on paper in a computer simulation to life. And so as you can see, this is the bridge design that became the bridges that held multiple pop cans and tape measures and other various objects in students' basements at home that has since turned in, as you can see, to really the foundation for these sheds. And so, you know, that there are just so many overlaps. And so as the team continued to plan and identify what overlaps exist between the home reno and the physics course, and the other key component is safety. And, you know, really one of the guiding principles of this class is to continue to provide students with tangible, applicable things that they can take with them beyond the walls of MHS. And so each of our students in the home rental course, the physics of home rental course, are starting their OSHA 10 training. And so I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the OSHA 10 training is, our students have heard all about it from guest speakers, but it is a 10-hour immersive experience that provides training on the recognition, avoidance, abatement, and prevention, this is a direct quote from the teachers, around safe and health hazards. And so these students, you know, by the end of this course will walk away with this certification that they can take with them. And many of our partners have shared this is really the first step into getting into those on-site experiences. And so safety is a key to science, and I can speak to this from experience, and it's a key into the physics portion, and it was put right to the test out of the gate as we were able to get out and on-site. And so as Jeff mentioned, that really one of the goals of this course was to not just keep it in the walls of Minnetonka High School, but to figure out how can we engage and learn from the trade professionals, not just within the Minnetonka community, but within that metropolitan community. And so while we were hopeful in June that we could make this happen, we really didn't know what it was going to look like come the start of the school year. And I am just thrilled at the work that the team has done. This is just a little timeline of some of the fall experiences that we've been able to launch and create. And I'm just going to provide a little more in-depth and kind of share some feedback from the students about what it's been like to really not only gain some very applicable physics and home reno knowledge, but also learn from some of our community members. A real highlight was just launching the year with Habitat for Humanity. So we had every student at 5 different sites in the metro area. Each site required a different skill set. I was fortunate enough to join a site and got to brush up on my power tool skills, but it was really, as you can see, the student rating, a 4.5 star rating by students, and their experience to just dive in, get outside on these beautiful days and build was so fun to watch. I think as we reflected with the students, first of all, they wanted to know how soon they could get back on site. And second, I think some of the learning was they really saw that this home construction is not something that happens in silos. It requires so many moving parts and teamwork. And the energy was just high among the students and our Habitat hosts. And so it had a high, really, rating by the students. And what's exciting is we're continuing our work with Habitat. So we're going to continue to partner with them and working on right now about what a project might look like that we could give back to Habitat as kind of some of our spring work. So this is just a snapshot from one of the sites. Each site started with some pre-instruction before, and then it was really dive in, use those safety skills, and grab those power tools. And this was the site that framed out a garage. So if you ask the students, what did you learn on site? It was, I learned how to repair a gutter, install a window, put my framing skills to the test. So this was one of the September highlights, but not all of our partnership highlights were in person. We actually were able to put the Google tools to the test and have our first kind of virtual conference early in September, in which we partnered with RJM and HGA. These are metro firms, and we were able to offer a conference where the students could really learn from experts. We got to really see what goes into making a $40 million renovation. So if you live in the Plymouth area, the new Plymouth Creek Center is going to be some dynamite facility as they finish it in the next year and a half. But students got to really hear from what are the questions architect and designers ask as they start to pursue a renovation like this. How does the planning, where do the engineers come in? And then we broke that into 7 mini sessions in which students got to learn more about what does inclusion look like on a job site? What about safety? What are all the different engineers that come into play, and just really widen their horizon about what does it mean to be a part of a large project. And the exciting thing is these just haven't been one-time wonder sort of conversations. RJM has continued to kind of invite us along in this process and keep us posted. So it's exciting. That was really more of a kickoff. But we have come to learn, and many of these students know this well, it is not just about framing a house, that there are so many important parts that fall under that umbrella of the trades. And so we were able to have Bonfi come on a very chilly day in October, but we had 2 of their HVAC and plumbing trucks and 3 of their experts come share with our students, and they were just incredibly honest and informative conversations, really quite inspiring. And you can see that it was another hit with the students. I think they were struck by the importance of just showing up as your best self. The Bonfi team really shared about when you're doing this work, you're often showing up to houses in a time of crisis or in, a low point. And so the importance to show up and to do your best work and to be skilled is key. And that really resonated with the students. I think they just appreciated the opportunity to learn another side and just to hear some different stories. So Bonfi was certainly an October highlight. But we haven't just had to have we haven't just had to do all live instruction. We've even been able to tap into this asynchronous skill we're developing in the world of e-learning. And so we had Eric Anderson with ATS&R was an architect who actually put together a total anytime, anywhere learning opportunity for students that really connected those principles of physics in which they were working on in class to the principles of design. And so you can even see 85% of students said, yeah, this type of learning is important in this course. One of the things I've just appreciated about our teacher team and is that they really are paying attention to student voice and what's interesting. And so after every event and partnership, they do what is called a Net Promoter Score survey. And so you may be familiar if you've ever been to a company and received a survey about would you recommend our services to a neighbor? That's sort of the same thing. Our spin is just would you recommend that we continue this experience in the next year? And you can see one of our highlights was Mr. Henry Pears. He received a Net Promoter Score of over 80, but all of ours have really received high 70s and 80s, which is just a student saying that these were valuable experiences. Henry Pears actually just engaged with our students just less than a week and a half ago, the Monday before Thanksgiving long weekend. And this was, it was just really cool to see a skipper who's just a little over 2 years out come back and share their story. Henry is pursuing the world of construction management, and he just had the students really captivated by his raw stories, his images. He had tons of pictures and videos, and just really reminded them the importance of this work, the importance of leadership, and the importance of commitment, and that these roles matter and that they are what make a difference. When he looks around and gets to see the projects, he's left a mark. I think a highlight for me is I actually had Henry in middle school, and so while I felt a little old that he was now presenting, I think to me it was inspiring to think this is what we hope. We hope that our students in the Momentum program will be Henry in 2 or 3 years and coming back to continue to share their story with their peers. And so that is our hope and that is our excitement for where we go next. And so, but we know that this can't be done in isolation. We have this incredible team of teachers who have put together this experience, and we've also had amazing community partners. And so we actually have our winter board meeting next Monday. And as you can see, this is who makes up our board currently. We have a representative of the Department of Labor, just really awesome perspectives, and we are just so excited to see what will come in the new year. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Ann. So just some of the great things that have been happening so far, and we obviously have another semester month left in the program this year. So when we started a year ago to talk about what does this need to look like, I think a couple things are important to remind ourselves that student voice really drove the work that we're doing. Every year with registration, it's totally student-driven what they want, but this specific program, what are the needs, what are the things that they're looking for, the trades panels that we had leading up to the design of the Momentum program in this specific strand. And also what we've learned over the past number of years about what really makes engagement happen. So we have rigorous content with what's happening within both of the classes, that application of the content they're learning, the instructors are coming from the outside, and they really see the why they're doing it, and they start applying those skills into real-life projects. That series of events allow for students to be engaged. And as you see in that video, we didn't prompt the student to say anything. Just tell us what your experience is and the pride they have in their work. And that just would not have happened without the teachers that are part of this group. Mr. Durkee from Science, Mr. Eby from Technology Education, Nick Barr from Tech Ed, Mitch Burfine from Tech Ed, and then also we have Brent Vaninga, who is a socialized teacher, but who also was part of the original design team of Vantage. So those elements of Vantage that we saw and that I just mentioned, they're all embedded within this program. So you can see the influence of that hands-on learning application. So I cannot say enough about their work, the work of Ann Hanstead to make this happen, and to constantly say what if in situations that's not always easy. So I can't thank them enough and for their student experience. So looking ahead, we continue to look at the projects that the students will they'll do over the next months, and also within the program, what's next. One of the student voice drivers is one of the courses you'll see later related to automotive. That was a top choice that they had for future. So student voice driving what we're doing, and really about helping students find their passion and just have amazing experiences. So it's been an awesome start, and they've done great work. So appreciate the chance to share that with you this evening, and be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Andy, can you also flip to the grid, please? Does anybody have any, it was a great presentation, so thank you very much. Does anybody have any comments or questions? I can see, now I can see you all. Does anybody, Chris?
Just a comment. I know I and a lot of us on the board have been really excited about the momentum strand. And it's really fun to see it, how it's progressed in such a short time, and really congratulations. But, you know, two things stood out to me. I wrote down that, you know, you talked about that student voice, and you had like two dichotomies. You had, I want to be in the trades for sure, and it makes me want to be an engineer, all out of the same experiences. And it shows that there's this balance between practical and theoretical knowledge that you can really only get through the application of that. So it's really, really cool to see. So thank you.
That's great. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? John?
Yeah, what Chris said. And I just want to say how proud I am of Mr. Erickson and the teachers and the community for coming together to put this program together. We realized that, you know, there's a significant percentage of students whose college is not the right next step for them. And we've seen through the Vantage program, which has been great to see Jeff leverage, the power of that hands-on learning. And so I really feel like we've got a complete curriculum now with the work we do to prep our kids for college, the work we do with Vantage and the science research program, and now Momentum, the support of the kids going to the military. And I really feel just proud of the work that Jeff has done across the high school experience to really make sure everybody has a place. So thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
And team.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Anybody else have any comments or questions? All right, I don't think so. It was a great report. Thank you. Thank you for all the work. It is really exciting to see how momentum is growing, and can't wait to see what's next.
We appreciate your support, and Dr. Peterson helped make all this happen. That's the exciting part of our district, so thank you.
It is great. Thank you.
Dr. Erickson.
All right, next we're going to move to community comments. The community had an opportunity to submit their comments by email to Carrie. Carrie, do we have any community comments this evening?
We do have one that I would like to read.
Absolutely.
This comment was submitted by Sarah Swartz Brown, and she lives at 1800 Pheasant Drive in Excelsior. Her comment pertains to Agenda Item 9, approval of new course proposals, changes, and deletions. District Policy 216, Teaching and Learning Advisory Committee, was revised in January of 2020 to ensure compliance with Minnesota Statute MS 120B.11, School District Process for Reviewing Curriculum, Instruction, and Student Achievement, striving for the world's best workforce. The role and the functions of the Teaching and Learning Advisory Committee is to serve in an advisory capacity to the school board and the administration, and shall have the responsibility of recommending, as appropriate, district-wide standards, assessments, program evaluations, graduation requirements, and perform such other responsibilities as specified by the school board, the state legislature, or the Minnesota Department of Education. Amongst other things, Policy 216 calls for the Teaching and Learning Advisory Committee to be representative of the community served by the district and the learning sites within the district. The committee is to include principals, teachers, parents, board members, support staff, students, and other community members, and that whenever possible, parents and community members shall comprise 2/3 of the advisory committee. Per the policy, the district is to advertise for volunteers to serve on the committee. Given the significant challenge of performing policy and curriculum review in order to accomplish Goal 2, excellence and belonging, it is evident that the Teaching and Learning Advisory Committee will play a significant role. Therefore, I ask that the school board provide a status on the composition and functioning of the Teaching and Learning Advisory Committee. Specifically, question 1. What is the current composition of the advisory committee? In what ways do the members represent the community and learning sites? For example, race, color, creed, religion, national origin, sex, gender, age, marital status, familial status, sexual orientation, ability, etc. Question 2. When and where did the district last advertise for volunteers to serve on the advisory committee? Question 3. Do parents and community members comprise 2/3 of the advisory committee? If not, why not? Question 4. How frequently does the advisory committee meet to do its work? Question 5. Did the advisory committee participate in the review in the spring of 2020 of parent and student satisfaction reports and provide analysis and recommendations to the school board? Question 6. In what ways has the advisory committee been engaged in Goal 2 related work? Question 7. How does the advisory committee interact with and/or present recommendations to the school board? That is the end of the comment.
All right, thank you. And
You're
thank you
welcome.
for the comment, submitting the comment. We are going to move on to our next agenda item, which is the acceptance of FY20 audit. Dr. Peterson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you reviewed the audit with the auditor at the last study session, and so as we usually do, they come back for a regular meeting to give you an opportunity to see the audit again and for the public to also see it since the meeting is televised. And really the district's in the best financial condition in its history. Minnetonka's had a long history of struggling to fund its budget, and we've now reached a point where we have about $30 million in reserves, and you have a policy expecting that to be around 5%. So you've really managed those dollars well over the years, and your predecessor boards as well. And so it's really great to see this audit. I would point out that the condition is a little bit better than we had projected because we reduced some expenditures during the spring when we didn't have school. And those are just things that didn't happen during that time. And so as Mr. Bourgeois pointed out earlier in his presentation, some of that may change this year as we have extraordinary expenses to keep the models going that we have for instruction. So, Mr. Bourgeois, I'll let you introduce the auditors and say whatever you'd like to about the audit.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Pearson, Madam Chair, members of the board. Yeah, Dr. Pearson summarized it very succinctly. We were able to have approximately a $4.5 million surplus in the general fund. With in spite of the pandemic, we are in good shape for the future. The audit that we have in front of us was very thorough. It is interesting, at least to me, on the other end of it, it seemed to take a little bit longer because of being separated from the auditors. So I never thought I'd say this, but we would like to see the auditors in the building. No, I'm just kidding. So no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, we have a really good auditing firm, Clifton Larson Allen, and Michelle Hoffman is the principal in charge of our audit. So I will turn it over to Michelle because she's got the rest of the report for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to remember you said that, Paul, for next time, that you would like us to be there more often. Well, thanks again for having me. I know I was here a week ago, as you mentioned, presenting the financial statements of the district, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or CAFR, as we like to call it. I'm going to present a slightly different document today. It's our executive audit summary. It summarizes not only some financial numbers, but just kind of our overall results of what we were also kind of testing and looking for. So I'm going to share my screen again, so hopefully that works. We'll share screen one. All right, so now someone please confirm you can see the first page of this document before I kind of talk for 10 minutes and no one can see it.
You look good. It's looking good,
Okay.
Michelle.
Thank you so much. Just want to make sure. Otherwise, I'll just start talking and I might not stop for a while.
Sorry, thank you.
So, I'm going to go over a few things. Feel free to interject if it feels timely to answer me a question. I have no problem answering questions as I go if there's something you want me to expand on. Otherwise, obviously, when I'm done as well, I'll definitely ask if anyone has any questions. So this is our executive audit summary. I'm going to start out also by just thanking Finance Department. I know Paul kind of alluded to the fact that, it was interesting. Audits were 100% virtual this year. It definitely was different. Having things, the last few years, the district's really been moving their records to be more electronic, which has certainly helped. I can't imagine trying to do this, 10 years ago. To my knowledge, no one had to stand next to a scanner for like hours on end. So everything was, pretty well organized, and that kind of shift to really trying to make things electronic and automated certainly did help in this remote audit. So we tried to use technology to our advantage, and I think, overall, all things considered, I think it went pretty well. But I definitely want to thank the finance department for, their efforts certainly in assisting that. They're always quite organized and ready with things for us and very prompt in answering our questions. I know Melissa Holman is no longer here. She just retired a couple of weeks ago, but I'll still say thanks to her, even though I know she's not at the meeting. And then Bridget as well, who, and the other folks in the finance department certainly who helped us out. So I definitely would be remiss if I didn't say thanks to them for their help as well. But I will move along to our executive audit summary. So I'll scroll down here a couple of pages. All right, so this page is really just kind of a snapshot summary of our audit results. We did issue an unmodified opinion on the district's financial statements for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020. Unmodified is the best opinion we can give. It's a clean report, as we noted here. We felt that we were not able to audit all the information, or something could be missing or materially misstated, we would have to modify our opinion in some capacity or maybe disclaim it. But we are issuing an unmodified opinion on the financial statement. Yellow Book is another thing that we issue an opinion on, and Yellow Book is just kind of the nickname or the word for government auditing standards. And these are, various standards and kind of, laws and requirements and regulations that as a government entity, the school district of Minnetonka has to abide by. So there's some items that we review as kind of part of our overall financial statement audit. And if we had any compliance issues, we would have to report those here, which we do not. Internal controls. As part of our audit, we also do look at internal controls. We don't form a formal opinion on them. We do a pretty thorough review of the controls of the district, especially over the kind of major audit areas or significant audit areas, looking to really make sure that there's those checks and balances in place, there's reviews, there's reconciliations. There's no instances where maybe one person is in control of a transaction from start to finish. And of course, if that were the case, it would open it up to potential manipulation. So we really kind of look at all that and say, do you have a check and balance? Could something happen, or is there really just, there's gonna be something that catches it? So in our review, if we had identified any weaknesses and controls that we felt were, material or pretty significant that we would need to communicate to you, I would, this would be included in this letter, and I would be communicating them to you today. We don't have any items, no material weaknesses and internal controls to report today. So obviously good news there as well. The single audit, and this is the term that is referred to when we talk about our federal audit. Because the district spends more than $750,000 in federal funds every year, they're required to have a federal single audit. And this is an audit, we look at the district's federal programs and test kind of the larger programs, kind of risk-based, based on federal guidance. Generally, this is a rotation of the special ed and child nutrition programs, as those are the large programs the district has. Paul also kind of alluded to that, some of the other programs you have might be a little smaller than other districts. So these are really your two main federal programs, and we kind of rotate across how we test them. This year, we actually tested both of them. And we did have one item with respect to controls over the procurement process as it relates to child nutrition. And I know, the federal guidance can be a little tricky, and especially when you're working with various, certain contracts are a little more straightforward. You're going out for bid, you're doing an RFP. Other ones, there can be very particular things that the program is looking for to meet the needs of students and families. And so some of the requirements can be kind of really tough. And there was just a couple contracts that the district has been working with vendors for a long time, and there was some pieces of documentation that we just weren't able to obtain and review, which is something we are required to do. So just one item there to just kind of tidy up some of the. Yeah, Paul, do you want to say something?
Basically, one of the things was apparently with vendors, you're supposed to go to a website called sam.gov where there's a list of vendors, and you're periodically supposed to check if any of the vendors have been debarred by the federal government. And that was something that we were unaware we were supposed to be doing. So, but we will be doing that going forward.
Yep. And that's, just an annual check with those major vendors, so shouldn't be something that would be too cumbersome at all to implement. All right, so the last piece of kind of things that we're testing against is Minnesota legal compliance. The Office of the State Auditor publishes a whole list of statutes that apply to, or it's a checklist, I guess, that is compared to all the statutes that apply to school districts in the state of Minnesota. There's a lot of things that they ask us to test for in comparison to those statutes. Things like related to, the investments. You're, obviously only allowed to invest in the kind of certain types of investments. Are your deposits properly collateralized in the bank? Do you go through that proper bidding process, issuing, RFPs and proposals and things, some things with debt limits. So just some various, and then some miscellaneous items. There's several different checklists that we have to run through. And if anything, popped up that was not in compliance with state statutes, we would have to report that as well. No compliance issues that I am reporting tonight either. So good news there as well. All right, so just getting to some kind of more results from the year. Enrollment, and I'm sure you've seen some of these numbers. Enrollment ended at ADMs, or average daily membership, of 11,087. And then you can see that translates to the adjusted pupil unit number there. Fiscal 18-19, that was at 10,927. So, definitely can see there 160 ADM increase from fiscal 19 to fiscal 20. District's general fund unassigned balance increased by $5.7 million during fiscal 20. The general fund actually ended up having a pretty solid year, all things considered. Fund balance increased from almost $20.2 million to almost $26 million. And the total fund balance of the general fund, and that was unassigned, excuse me, total fund balance of the general fund increased by about 4.6, so ending at about almost $33 million on June 30, 2020. The ending unassigned fund balance, and this is kind of a metric we really look at a lot with districts, the unassigned fund balance. So when you take out anything that's restricted by state mandate or, committed or assigned by the district itself, kind of everything else that you're left with to spend on, various just general operations, represents 17.76% of general fund expenditures. So we do always kind of look at that as a little bit too, as you think that's how much time of, how long could you get by with that if you didn't have any funding sources coming in? So you think, somewhere between 2 and 3 months of expenditures, and that's kind of how much you have sitting sort of in the rainy day fund, as Paul alluded to. And the district's policy is to keep that above 6%. So certainly you're above your district policy, sitting at that 17.76. Budget to actual for the general fund. Total revenues were about $500,000 less than budgeted, which, 1/3%. So certainly, very tight window there and very close to the actual budget amount. Total expenditures had a slightly higher variance of about almost $2.5 million, but that was 2.5 less than was the final budget amount. So still only 1.63%. We always kind of look to see it that you kind of want to keep it less than 2%, those variances. So, very tight budgeting from the district, keeping an eye on the financing, adjusting things as needed. But overall, some cost savings this year that actually ended up with those expenditures being lower than had been budgeted. All right, so this is sort of just a little graph of what I was referring to with the unassigned fund balance as a percent of total fund balance. So you can see, and this is just a general fund, the unassigned fund balance, I think there's a red line that's not showing up. Unassigned fund balance as far as percentages there for the last 5 years. So we have total fund balance and unassigned fund balance as a percent of annual expenditures. So we don't have our expenditures are not there, but we have just the fund balance, so the graph doesn't get too crazy. So you can see that percentage has been creeping up. So your unassigned fund balance, last year was 13.83, and that bumped up almost 4% to 17.76. So it was a nice increase in fund balance in the general fund in fiscal 19. And then this just shows fund balance per ADM, which, as you would expect, also increased with that nice increase in fund balance. Here's our 10-year kind of look back of average daily membership, or ADMs. And you can see that steady every year. ADMs have been increasing for the last 10 years. So, when you look at about 2,500 ADMs, increase over the last 10 years, which, I mean, that's more than 25% starting from 2011. So, the district has very steady, as you know, increase in enrollment, maybe starting to kind of creep toward a little bit of the peak as where it might be, but every year has had very solid increases in enrollment for looking back 10 years. All right, the next two snippets from the financial statements are from what we call the government-wide financial statements. And this takes all the activity of the district, absent the fiduciary funds that Paul alluded to that really are not the district's funds, you're just kind of holding them for others. But it puts it all together in one column. And it also adds all of your long-term items, your assets and your liabilities here. So all your long-term, assets and long-term liabilities. So this is, bonds, the total amount of bonds payable outstanding, your net pension liability, your other post-employment benefits, which is mostly, health insurance type benefits, all those capital assets, that's all put on here. So you can kind of see this reconciliation between, well, our fund balance is 39 million, and actually we end up at a net position that's actually a negative 76 million. And I kind of talked about this at the previous board meeting, but I'll mention it again. The big reason for that negative, and I know we don't focus too much on the government-wide statements, but I think it's important to talk a little bit about it, especially now that most of our Minnesota school districts are showing a big negative in net position. The biggest reason is this net pension right here. You can see it's over $92 million liability that's related to directly to the liability for pensions. And in addition, this line item down here, the 32.7 million, is also directly related to pensions. And both of those you can see are negatives, and they're adding, $125 million negative amount, kind of negative reconciliation. And what these are, just to reiterate for those who might not be super familiar, the school district of Minnetonka, like all of our districts, are part of the state administered pension plans, PERA and TRA. And both those plans are technically underfunded, meaning the current investment value, the value of the investments they hold, is less than basically the promised liabilities to all those employees out there. An actuary comes in and determines, based on all the employees and how long they're going to live and what the benefits we promised them, they come up with a big liability number. And that number is much higher right now, or higher than the investments of the plan. And government accounting changed a standard a few years ago and said that basically all the members of that plan have to take their little slice of that liability, that unfunded piece. So this $92.5 million is Minnetonka's slice of the unfunded share of both TRA and PERA combined. And then the 32.7 million are some other, we call them deferred inflows and outflows. They're accounting numbers that sort of smooth some of these large swings in the liability, because we can swing a lot. But in general, it's a big hit to your statement of net position. It does not affect your fund balance at all. But without it, you would have a positive net position. And the liability itself is not something the district ever kind of incurred. The other ones on here, the OPEB, the bonds, you made the decision to take that on. You did not decide. You didn't decide on the benefits for the employees. That was the plan that made that decision. You didn't decide on contribution rates for the year. The plan sets those, all those types of things. So it's a liability that really went on your books based on no decisions made by the districts, and you can't even pay it off if you wanted to. You couldn't bond for it or anything. So it is creating a negative net position, but that is kind of what the biggest reason for that is. And this is just a reconciliation again of when we look at our change in fund balance, which in total was just shy of $1 million for all of our governmental funds, and look at the impact that all those items had again on our change in net position versus our ending net position. So as you can see, items related to pensions, over $10 million swing there, negative. All right, so we'll get into the funds of the district. As we like to focus a little more on the fund level and what our funds are doing. I showed you your ADM graph already, or a version of it. Here's another look back for 10 years. This time we kind of have it broken down between elementary, secondary, and other. So you can see, again, that steady uptick over the years and how each category is growing. Although elementary, at least these last couple of years, appears to be kind of, stabilizing itself a bit, but overall increases over the last 10 years. All right, general fund revenue sources. Certainly state aids make up the bulk of the general fund revenue, local taxes being the other piece, and federal aids being a pretty small slice. But revenues increasing very steadily over the last 5 years, and really that breakdown hasn't changed too much either. You can see down here, it's been pretty steady for the last 5 years. All right, expenditures per student. So here we have a table that shows general fund, all expenditures, and then what we just consider operating expenditures. So it would take out things like debt service that aren't really direct operating expenses of the district. And you can see the last 5 years kind of how much the district has been spending in the general fund per ADM. So certainly, both categories are creeping up, except for actually the operating one actually went down a little bit in 2020, largely from some of the things we've already talked about. The last few years, the last few months of the year, there was a lot of cost savings as the virtual learning world, transitioned to virtual learning. We're able to have some cost savings there. So actually operating expenditures, and actually total, then also went down per student. So you can see a little bit more of the totals here, where we ended up for 2020 and 2019 as far as budget to actual. I had mentioned earlier that expenditures came in about $2.5 million under budget. And really that was kind of across the board, as you can see here, savings in a lot of areas, payroll and then purchase services, certainly supplies and materials especially was a big one that came in. So 1.6% under budget, as compared to the final budget there. And then you can see actual for last year, costs were about $142 million. All right, so quick shot at over the last 5 years, kind of how the general fund's been performing. So last year there was a decrease in the fund balance of the general fund. This year, again, that kind of nice 3.6 million increase before we factor in some other items. So overall, about $4.5 million increase in fund balance. And here we have how the fund balance down at the bottom here is kind of broken out into categories. I mentioned the unassigned is that, almost $1 million. There are pieces of this the total fund balance that either are currently restricted by state statute or assigned, by the district for kind of earmarking for certain areas. And again, showing that kind of increase of fund balance as a percentage of expenditures, been steadily kind of creeping up over the last 5 years. All right, let's switch gears now and look at the food service fund. I think it was a tough year for food service funds across the state. I think food service and community ed probably more so, but food service did have a decrease in fund balance. This is pretty common across a lot of food service funds, as in the spring, districts were kind of shifted gears with virtual learning and started operating a summer food service program format. When you're operating that summer food service program, you're not selling meals to students, you're offering them, free of charge to the community members that it benefits, the ones that need to take advantage of it. So you're using some of that revenue related to meal sales, and you're certainly cutting some of the costs as far as operations, but it's not necessarily one-to-one as far as costs you're able to reduce, with wages and things. So you're losing a lot of those meal sales revenue and maybe not decreasing your costs at the same rate. So that often, had a negative impact on a lot of food service funds. So did have a decrease in fund balance, but still has, very healthy ending fund balance of 1.5 million at year end. And you can see this big change here in lunches served to students, just over a million meals last year, hit a nice milestone, and now we're back down to 750,000. So, 25% decrease in meals served to students. During, obviously mostly because of that kind of shift to the summer program and virtual learning. And this is just a breakdown of the meals served again. You can see the big dip here. It had been steadily kind of creeping up. Certainly, in Minnetonka more than maybe some other districts or some, of the other metro districts, serves more, the percentage of full price meals is a lot higher. So when you're shifting and you're having virtual school and you're not getting that full price, you're not selling meals anymore, then that's really going to, take a dip on the meals served and the revenue of the fund. All right, community service funds, it was definitely a unique year for our community service funds across the state. As, a big thing with the community service funds is that the state, the governor basically mandated that all of our districts provide free, during the day, free childcare to essential workers in the spring months. So there was, basically a state mandate that were providing free childcare for these essential workers, not, during the school day at least, obviously not collecting a fee for that, but still incurring the cost. So I think because of that, I don't think I've seen a community service fund yet that actually increased fund balance, but good thing is that the district started out with a very healthy fund balance in your community service fund. So far, it looks like but last year I think was definitely a unique year. Obviously, we're still in some unique times, but so far been able to weather it pretty well, and just kind of and last year obviously took us all a little bit more by surprise too. There's a little more time to plan this year to hopefully at least stabilize that. All right, this is the last table I will show you. This is expenditures per student. And what we're looking at here is, obviously with Minnetonka over here on the right, 2018, 19, and 20. The most recent data we have for statewide districts and other districts is 2019. We don't have 20 yet. So we can kind of compare 2019, and there's a few different ways you can look at this table. Some people just go straight to the bottom and say, oh, look, we're spending less per student than, the statewide average or the metro. That's great. And then it's great. And actually, yeah, you're spending less in 2019. But other ways you could look at it too, and I think it's kind of what is also important to the district. I think looking at different categories can really tell a story too. And I just highlighted a couple, like, hey, look, we definitely spent less on operations and maintenance and admin, but we actually spent more on regular instruction. So some of those types of things are, certainly part of the narrative that as you make your decisions and look at the programming at the district, there are certainly areas you would want to invest in more and be proud of that you spent more. So it's just, interesting table to kind of glance at and just see where you kind of shake out compared to statewide, metro area, and then kind of larger districts. The next couple pages, just some legislative activity. Not a whole lot was accomplished last spring, but we identified a few things. And then just the never-ending accounting update when there's always new standards and changes when it comes to accounting. So nothing too much in here that I'm going to touch on in detail. And the last is just a letter to the board with some kind of legal communication requirements. Again, there were no issues with the audit, so there isn't really a whole lot in here that it's mostly just kind of nothing to note, essentially summarizing. Does anyone have any questions on anything?
Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I kind of hit you with a lot if you already had an hour of financial information thrown at you. A lot of finance and numbers tonight.
Chris?
I just have a comment and then a quick question, and maybe Paul can answer it. But thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Paul, and your team for everything that you do. I'd like to point out in our package, one fact that we talk about a lot, but we talk about our district bond rating that's AAA, and we started in 2010 with that, and we are only one of 88 school districts of almost 13,600 in the country, and so you don't do that without careful watching the finances, and obviously this audit proves that. So thank you very much. And then just one question for clarification. Michelle, you talked about the total ADM or enrollment at 11,088, but then there's also an APU, an adjusted pupil unit that is over our cap in theory. So if the public sees that we have some sort of pupil units of 12, I think in our report, I don't have exactly what you put out there, but it's 12,112. Can you explain that? I know that's a formula, that's not real students.
Certainly.
Yeah, so pupil units are really based on the type of students you have, and it kind of generates your funding. So like the state has identified, how much it would cost to educate a kindergartner, for example, versus a high school student. And generally that is more for a kindergartner. So when you take, you take actual people and how many ADMs you have, and then you multiply that by, some students, depending on their age level, are weighted more than others based on how much the state has determined the average cost to kind of provide them an education is. So if you were, really heavy in certain ages that represented more, that number would go up, even if maybe your total number of ADMs didn't change, So that's kind of how it's like you said, that doesn't represent like an actual person. It's a weighted number based on sort of the age level of your district.
Just to add on to that, the state actually, when they do all their dollars per pupil, it's per head count, which is average daily membership. And that is basically one head count for one student. Adjusted pupil units is what we actually then get paid on, and grades 7 through 12 are multiplied by 1.2. So with 11,000, approximately 100 students, we end up with about 12,100 funding units or adjusted pupil units to multiply by the factors. So when we are at 11,088, that's the head count. And actually that head count also is actually pre-K. We have some early childhood special ed that we get ADMs for. It's about 40 to 45 a year. So that's those early childhood special ed plus then K through 12.
Good. Thank you for the clarification.
Great question. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2020 audit report as presented. Thank you, Mark. Is there a second? Mike, thank you. We're going to move to a roll call vote.
Board members, when I call your name, if in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Board member Ambrosen?
Aye.
Board member Becker?
Aye.
Board member Holcomb?
Aye.
Board member Lesage?
Aye.
Board member Ritchie?
Aye.
Board member Vitale?
Aye.
Board member Wagner?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you again. Thanks, Michelle.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll hopefully see you in the building next year.
Yep, I heard it. They want us there.
All right, we're going to move to our next agenda item, which is the adoption of 2020 payable 2021 levy. Dr. Peterson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you set a preliminary levy back in September, and the levy you adopt tonight cannot be higher than that amount. So Mr. Bourgeois went through the full presentation earlier with the hearing, so it'd be redundant to repeat that now. So really, I can either read the resolution or you can, and would ask that you adopt it. Would you like for me to read it?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, go ahead.
So the resolution that we're asking the board to adopt is, be it resolved that the school board of Minnetonka Independent School District 276 does hereby certify the 2020 pay 2021 property tax levy in the amount of $55,245,358.26. And be it further resolved that the deputy clerk of Minnetonka Independent School District 276 is hereby directed to deliver a signed original of the 2020 payable 2021 levy certification to the county auditors of Hennepin and Carver counties prior to December 30th, 2020, and deliver a copy to the Minnesota Department of Education Program Finance Division no later than December 30th, 2020.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the property tax levy?
So moved.
Thank you, Chris. Is there a second? Lisa, thank you. Any comments or questions? John?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa, and thanks, Paul Bourgeois, for a great explanation of the property tax. You know, the property tax is one of the main ways that we fund a number of our programs in the school district. And I always like to talk about and remind our taxpayers how we're spending our money as we talk about the tax part, which is really the income. And just referring the taxpayers to page 29 of our school annual report, where it actually highlights the fiscal efficiency of our district, where we spend less, $277 less per pupil than the state average for public school districts, and we spend $1,661 less per pupil than the metro district. So as we talk about taxes, which are a meaningful part of our income for the district, I always want to remind the taxpayers how efficiently we spend those dollars that we do obtain through these levies. So thank you, Paul, again, and thanks for the hard work for the finance department.
Absolutely. Many thanks. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Lisa?
Just to tack on to what John said, I think it's also important to remind all of us and all of the community members that all of the bond refinancing that you see us doing all of the time is actually a really important component of helping to keep this levy as low as possible. And so every time when you refinance that and there are proceeds, that allows us to keep the levy down or reduce the levy in some cases, lower than it would have otherwise been. So when you see us having all those conversations about that, I think it's important to understand that that's a big piece of it. I'd also mentioned that all of this information, the audit's a big part of helping to consider all of this, and all that becomes available on the website if people want to take a look at it. So.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. And go ahead, Chris.
Lisa reminded me of something I forgot to say before. So talking about our rating, and Lisa talked about all the money we were saving. I just was adding up from 2 weeks ago. Just the bond issuances in 2021, we had a $604,000 net present value savings. So because of our good ratings, we're getting favorable interest rates that allows us to refinance that debt, sometimes at lower rates, but also at a lower net present value that goes right to the bottom line. So,
Thank you. Does anybody else have any other comments or questions? All right. Well, thank you again. We need to move to a roll call vote. I was blanking. Okay, Gary, we're ready.
Board members, when I call your name, if in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Board member Ambrosen?
Aye.
Board member Becker?
Aye.
Board member Holcomb?
Aye.
Board member Lesage?
Aye.
Board member Ritchie?
Aye.
Board member Vitale?
Aye.
Board member Wagner?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. Thank you. Thank you again. All right, we're going to move on to the approval of the MCE fees. Dr. Peterson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, setting the fees for families who have their children in our various programs at Community Ed every year is a major decision. And we try to weigh what the district needs to do in order to meet increased salaries and costs of other kinds, and still what we feel is appropriate for the families to handle for an increase. And we've gotten good advice from the advisory committee at the Early Childhood Advisory Committee that the fees we're proposing are a fair balance of that and appropriate. We've really, financially taken it on the chin with these programs this year because we had to pay back some fees to people who had paid them last year, and not only that, but we had more expenses at the direction of the governor. So it's been a tough ride, and Tim Litvin and his team have done a phenomenal job of managing all of that. And the fees we're proposing tonight will help us manage those rough waters for another year, because this year is going to be challenging as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Litvin to go through the fees. And I don't know if you want to do them one fee at a time, or if you want to do them all at once, or how you'd like to do it. So
We could, let's do it all at once.
okay, Mr. Litvin.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Good evening. And board members, good evening. Community members, good evening as well. It's my pleasure, as well as my community education leadership team of Jenny and Sally, to be here at least twice a year formally in front of you. And this time this evening is in December, as it is annually, to talk about fees for the subsequent year, like Dr. Peterson just mentioned. And so with that, we'll just get right to it. And thank you very much for your time this evening. First little piece of good news is coming out of Deep Haven, Minnesota, and that would be the addition onto the MCEC building. And we've got a little treat for each board member, Dr. Peterson, tonight, so we'll pass these around, and virtually we'll get one to the rest of them as well that are here tonight. So, Christine, can I get you to share those? Nice little break for those of you watching at home. Yeah, I'm sure it'll go to good use at the holidays for you. But anyway, the addition is going along well. In fact, this past Tuesday, we opened up the brand new addition to MCEC. So for the past 7 months or so, it's been active. You can't really see it when you drive by, but it's there. It's tucked away behind, and it is beautiful. I can't wait for all of you to come in and see it. Junior Explorers open it up on Tuesday of this week, and 2 rooms that they have are active and all smiles. And that's what we're hearing from kids and staff as well. The first floor will be Minnetonka Preschool, and they'll start with one of those rooms early in January after the holidays. And then the upper floor is adult programming that begins now as well. So check it out when you're able. I look forward to your comments. And here are a couple of pictures. One just that I took on Tuesday morning, first day, with some of the Junior Explorers children on the right. And then on the left is the real nice exercise and meeting space on the second floor, and you can see the windows, and everything overlooks Burton Park in a magnificent way. Truly a wonderful addition, and we're so very proud of it. Also, the catalog is on the heels. We deferred it a little bit to get past some of this sticky time that we're in, but that will be on doorsteps January 6th. That's our winter catalog, so we look forward to that. And key thing to note is that online registration begins sooner than the catalog gets delivered, as it says on the screen. So coming up real soon for that as well. Holiday family giving is something that we coordinate in community education as well. Louise Bagshaw is one of our program managers, outstanding in all ways, and she leads that effort for the district. And as you can see, the number of families are on the screen this year, and it's comparable to past years, and they're still coming in. And we have, thanks to all of you that are out there watching and board members, we have enough donors to make it work, so we appreciate that. So in fact, we have more donors right now, and we could have another couple of families come in and take care of them. Big help to the community at all times, especially in 2020. Annually, we do a 2-question survey. It's not coming out until February, but I don't know if I've shown this to the board since it came out last February. And we monitor 2 things each year: quality and customer service. And according to the Learn organization, we want to be at 4 or higher, and we have been each of the last 2 years, and that's a good thing. And that's all customers in community education. They'll get this real quick 2-question survey, easy for them and easy for us to understand and then track going forward. Good piece of news. Dr. Peterson alluded to some of our registration and finance issues. Here's a nice quick slide for you to understand participation as community education has experienced it since March 15th when things went south. And you can see in real, no uncertain terms, year-over-year comparisons to what you're looking at, and we've been down since March. And ironically, 2019-20, we were as high as we've ever been until March 15th. And I know it'll come back. Everything will be good. Parents are ready, adults are ready, and it'll swing again the good way. But you can see really from where we were in July, it's gone increasingly better. So that's one good sign, and we know that will continue again once we get on the other side of this white elephant that's in the room. Census data, I'll get into some finance issues as well now. For early childhood family education, they're paid off of the census in many ways, 0 through 4 census, and that's very comparable to where it's been in the last few years. That's an average of the last few years. So that number is a good number, 1921. We'll take that and move forward with it in a good way. Preschool and ECFE revenue is broken up in front of you. You can see the audited 1920 number in front of you and then the budgeted number on the right. And again, not bad, but it reflects the reality of today, where 1 year ago with audited numbers, again, this is just preschool and ECFE when you combine those budgets, about 77% fees, but budgeted this year, much less because customers are less. And the 50% capacity holds us back in community education programming as well. Room capacity of 50%, that is. Minnetonka Preschool and ECFE budget, I can show you a little bit here where we've been each of the last few years, and it's always up a little, down a little. It's just like a roller coaster ride in a good way, and that's okay. And this year, of course, we're down because of the situation we're in with the pandemic, and we're estimated to probably be on the short side in Minnetonka Preschool to the tune of about $250,000 this year. The Explorers budget, a similar look for you with Explorers, and you can see where we've been the last couple of years, always in a nice financial, healthy situation. 1920, when things started to dip south, we did as well in March. And so we lost revenue there, we lost students. And this year, you can see where we're estimating right now, and we'll come back to you here in another month or so with a revised budget. But right now, it looks like we'll be substantially less in that Explorers program than we were just last year. Good news on the bottom of the slide, there's been some money that's come from the CARES Act as well as the Department of Human Services. So that's been a big boost as well. The Community Education Fund balance is a part of our study annually. Dr. Peterson and Paul Bourgeois were just talking about audit, and of course this is the recent audit for community education on the bottom slide. But everything is really in a good way, and here's a good news story. This slide tells a lot of good news because when Dr. Peterson and Paul Bourgeois and I started talking about the addition, the fund balance was healthy enough to take that addition money out. And so we did it at the right time. Just great planning. If we'd have waited a year, it wouldn't have been so good. So it was just so opportune. And as I showed a picture to you before, it's stunning over there. And thankfully, because right now we could not do that with the fund balance we have. So again, good move, good planning, the Minnetonka way, right? There we are. I'll turn it over to Sally Blood right now, and she's going to walk you through Minnetonka Early Childhood Family Education.
Thank you, Tim. Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Peterson, board members, community. It's an honor to be here and update you on early childhood family education and Minnetonka Preschool. As a reminder of what ECFE is, we use that acronym a lot, but it represents Early Childhood Family Education. Our mission is to strengthen families and enhance the ability of all parents to provide the best possible early learning environments for their children. And we are excited to do that. Even in this COVID year, we're offering in-person and e-learning classes in early childhood family education. We do a comparison with our neighbors in terms of fees, and I'm happy to say we're very competitive. As you see, our highest, on our sliding fee scale, our highest fee is slightly less than our neighbors. This year, 37% of our families in early childhood family education classes are paying no fee, while 31% are paying the highest fee. And we are proposing to keep the 6-tiered sliding fee scale as is, with an increase of 5% for next year. Minnetonka Preschool. We are embracing flexibility and nimbleness, I would say, in a new way this year. And an example of that is our Minnetonka Preschool Open House. Typically is a very large event at MCEC, always the last Saturday in January with face painting, gym activities, games. We're revising it a little this year for it to be a parent-only experience, and we'll have a virtual option one evening and 2 in-person options, one on a Tuesday evening and one on that Saturday morning. So we invite you to attend. Every late October, we survey current Minnetonka Preschool families, and one of the questions we ask is, why did you choose Minnetonka Preschool? The top response, it was this year part of Minnetonka Public Schools, followed by a tie for second, licensed teachers in the classroom, and Minnetonka Preschool's reputation came in second, followed by affordability. We also surveyed our e-learning preschool families. Their top reason for choosing Minnetonka Preschool was to limit family exposure and because it was part of Minnetonka Public Schools. And I'm going to read a quick quote, shout out to our Minnetonka Preschool teachers. In our survey, we always have an opportunity for parents to comment about something. And so one of the many quotes that encompasses how grateful families are for the high quality licensed teachers that we have, the parent wrote, "Our daughter loves coming to school every day. And even with COVID restrictions in place, her teacher goes out of her way to keep us connected. We are very grateful." People still are coming to MCEC for preschool tours. The 18-19 number and 19-20 number are the full year numbers. Year to date, we're at 14. which is pretty good for a COVID year. And I anticipate we will exceed 31 tours. And when people come to our open house experience, of course, tours is part of that as well. Our Minnetonka Preschool enrollment, as Tim alluded to, we are not serving as many kids this year as we do in a typical year. We're at 50% classroom capacity. And, but I am proud that we are at 87% of our 50% classroom capacity. So I feel good about that. And I also want to let people know that we still have some openings in our in-person classes and in our second semester e-learning class that begins the first week of January. Preschool open enrollment. The number of open enrolled preschoolers is less this year than in past years. I predict that will rebound when we're out of our COVID time. And fee comparison, similar to the early childhood family education comparison, we also compare neighboring preschools in regard to their preschool fees. And in this comparison, we look at 13 different public school and private preschools. We look at licensed teachers. I'm proud to say that only one other program besides Minnetonka Preschool requires licensed teachers in their programs. Only half of our neighbors have a 4-star parent aware rating, and we are very competitive in our average hourly rates. Our proposed monthly fees for next year is an average 5% increase. It is 4.86 to 5.18% range of a proposed increase for next year. And I believe Tim is going to wrap up this particular section. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I know we'll take these one at a time afterwards, but I just wanted to summarize some of the preschool requests for this next year. And that is, we're proposing an increase in the registration fee from $75 to $100. And then we're also proposing moving from 37 calendar weeks to 36 calendar weeks for just next year as a cost-saving measure. As Dr. Peterson alluded to a little bit ago, the PTO was very much in support of this move to get us through this sticky period that we're in. Okay, and then I'll look forward to introducing Jenny Bedurka. She'll talk about Explorers.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Dr. Peterson, members of the board. Thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight. I will share a little bit about our Explorers program, which is school-age care for grades K through 5 and preschool wraparound child care at MCEC. This is a chart that I have shown the last 5 years I've been here talking about this, but it looks very different sadly this year based on the impact from COVID. You'll see the far 2 right columns can tell a little bit about our participation. So the second to last on the right, 513 shows our participation last summer. We were thrilled to be able to open our program and run a summer program. It was certainly modified and looked very different. But the kids just loved the opportunity to be back. The staff loved being there. But it was one of our lowest enrollment summers in the last 8 years. And then the far right column really does tell the story of participation this year. 813 is the highest enrollment we've had. And we have had a recent reduction in that we've offered to families during this e-learning time. If they want to pause their Explorers contract, they can do that without paying the fees for the before and after school care. So we've had about 320 family registrations decide to pause for this e-learning time. So those numbers are definitely significantly lower than at this time last year. We were at 1,908. As we look at open enrollment, actually our percentage of open enrolled students has stayed the same, interestingly. And in reference to the number of families that are not joining us this year, we did go out with a survey to families who've participated in the past but did not sign up for Explorers this year, just to learn a little bit from them about the reasons why they're not with us. We were really pleased to see just a general rating question that 98% of them said they'd had a good, great, or excellent experience with Explorers. We further went on to ask reasons why they decided not to participate this year. And the really big two reasons that came through were a lot of parents are working from home, so they don't need that before and after school care. And followed second most responses were that they wanted to limit their child's interaction with others due to COVID. We went on to ask if your employment circumstances would change. Would you consider returning? A good, strong percentage said yes, so we're pleased to see that. And also a good response to once COVID concerns are not present, they would be definitely interested in coming. Also important to note, some of those potentially answered no because their child would age out of our program. A few highlights just about our Explorers program. Certainly family convenience is really important, that we're right there after school to support families. We've continued to be open throughout the pandemic, providing care in various formats, so we're really proud of that. We do provide care on non-school days as well as weather closure days, and really work hard to support our families by training our staff really well and having a lot of nice features and support for families as they need it. As we do with all of our programs, we look at our public and private neighbors and the fees that they charge for childcare. We're very competitive and close to our neighbors in terms of fees for public school before and after school programs. And then I would say our fees consistently are lower than that of private programs that are in the area. And I will turn it over to Tim from here, but thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny and Sally, appreciate it. Board members, the requests are in front of you, and we'll one at a time. Dr. Peterson?
I thought she said
Chair?
all of them together.
Okay, all together. Okay, very good.
Right.
Yeah, I think so. Can I have a motion to approve the proposed fees as presented? I'm sorry, Andy, can I see the grid? Thank you. No, okay. Can I have a motion to approve the fees as presented? Thanks, Mike. Is there a second? I can't see who that is. Mark. Thanks, Mark. Are there any comments or questions? John.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. So we had our community ed advisory meeting on Monday this week, and Tim and his staff walked the advisory committee through in pretty low level of detail, right? Excruciating detail, the impact of enrollment on courses, programs, finances of the community ed business. And obviously there was concern among the board members there, the advisory club members there around the trajectory based on the COVID impacts. And everybody was really rallying around what else could we do to support Tim from a program perspective, from an offering perspective, to make sure that community ed continues to deliver the quality programs and services in our communities that Tim and his team have delivered historically to date. So for that, I'm really in support of Tim's proposal for the modest increase in fees to continue to support our community ed initiatives.
Thanks, John, and thanks for that insight to the advisory council that you sit on. Thank you. Anybody else have any comments or questions? No, I just want to, sorry, did I see your hand?
I was just going to ask if we could have the screen back up, or is there a way to see the fees?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you,
Thanks.
Andy. Thank you for the presentation tonight. It was great, and it is a difficult year, so it's disappointing to see enrollment down, but completely understandable because I know families are, everybody's making adjustments. So I know it will bounce back just like everybody commented on, and I can't wait to see how your ECFE open house goes. I mean, having myself been a part of that for years, it's such a fun event. I know you guys are going to make it great for those prospective families. So I hope it's a great success. And thank you for bringing it past the advisory council, the MCEC, the preschool advisory council. I'm glad to hear that they're in support of the changes, the fee increase from, I think it was 275 or 200.
200.
75 to 100.
Correct.
And I just thank you for the update and the proposed fees this evening. I don't know if anybody else have any. Thanks, Lisa. Go ahead.
I just have a question maybe for Tim Lipton in regard to, I know these are not, enormous fee increases, but are there other scholarship opportunities that we can promote or ways that we can boost up our scholarship situation just so that we don't have any families that are not able to participate for financial reasons?
Thank you for that question, Lisa, and it's spot on, and you know that well from being very central to our program through the years, that we do not turn away any families from Minnetonka Preschool or early childhood family education. There are scholarship opportunities quite frequent, really. This year it's a little different. The School Readiness Program Fund is built for scholarships into preschool. And even at that this year, because of the 50% capacity, things are changing. However, that fund sits there. The PTO has a reserve that they also use for scholarshiping, as Chris Vitale knows, as being on that board, as you do, Lisa, and Katie from being on that board in the past. So there's money available. So we look at all families and say, please come to these open houses that we're having so that you can look at Minnetonka Preschool and early childhood family education as a viable option for your family and your child next year. Funding is there to help you if you need it.
Great question.
Great, thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions? I can't see Mike, so Mike, if you do, just speak up. Oh, there, I can see you now. All right, so seeing none, we're going to move to a roll call vote.
Board members, when I call your name, if in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Board member Ambrosen?
Aye.
Board member Becker?
Aye.
Board member Holcomb?
Aye.
Board member Lesage?
Aye.
Board member Ritchie?
Aye.
Board member Vitale?
Aye.
Board member Wagner?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. Thank you, and thank you again for being here tonight.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay, I'm going to move on to our next agenda item, which is the approval of new course proposals, changes, and deletions. Dr. Peterson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, these proposed changes, both the new courses and the deletions, as well as changes in titles, were all presented to you at a study session, and we've given the community opportunity to weigh in on this, and you had a committee comment earlier, actually. So I would recommend that you adopt these changes. Amy is here tonight if you have questions, or Steve is online as well.
Hi, Steve.
Recommend that you adopt these changes.
All right. Can I have a motion to approve? Are we going to do it all? Yeah. We'll do it all as all. Sorry, you guys, I was looking down, not up. So can I have a motion to approve the suggested approval of new course proposals, changes, and deletions? I see Lisa as a first and Mark as a second. So are there any comments or questions for Mr. Urbanski? Or Amy? I know she's here. John, go ahead.
Sorry, I won't ask as many questions or make as many comments as I did during the study session, but one course that I did want to highlight was the exploring the teaching profession. So as a district, as a board, we've talked a lot about how do we continue to expand the reach of the great teaching profession. And certainly our Minnetonka teachers are exemplary examples of what great leaders do with our students and the results that they can achieve. And as we think about the teaching shortfall that's coming down the road, we had a lot of conversation internally about how do we really update the public and our students on what a great career teaching is. And I'm just really excited to see that Steve Urbanski and his team were able to take some of those concepts and how we can really widen the aperture of lens of people who are exposed as teaching as a profession, and get credit for that during their high school experience. So thank you, Steve, very much for that thoughtful course proposal. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the students enroll in that course next year.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Mike?
Yeah, just kind of building also and echoing John's sentiments on the teacher strand and the courses there. But I think when we went through and we went in depth through it, and Steve covered it in depth in our study session, but for me, I always want to be jealous of my children and the kids in school. And I look at the coursework and some of the additions, and I'm jealous, right? It's kind of like the momentum strand and seeing some of the work that they're doing. It's like, man, I wish I would have had that in high school. So hats off to you, Steve, the team, and obviously Jeff Erickson, and all the great work. Our kids are definitely the benefactors of all these efforts. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
So true, Mike. Great comment. Anybody else? Any comments or questions? All right, seeing none, we can move to roll call vote.
Board members, when I call your name, if in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Board Member Ambrosen?
Aye.
Board Member Becker?
Aye.
Board Member Holcomb?
Aye.
Board Member Lesage?
Aye.
Board Member Ritchie?
Aye.
Board Member Vitale?
Aye.
Board Member Wagner?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, motion carries. Thank you again for all of the work for everybody that put into this. Can't wait to see what the new courses are like next year. Okay, going to move to our next agenda item, which is the approval of 2021 legislative position statements. Dr. Peterson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you've also reviewed this one at the study session, and we have not made any changes in it. It's mainly to approve those school finance working group recommendations that we feel would be beneficial to the district and would be not a cost to the state, and also to increase the basic formula revenue by 2%, which looks a little more promising now that we have the forecast. So they could at least open with that, and then they'll have another a budget forecast later in the session. And then, of course, to utilize property tax shifts or shifting the payments of state aid, which would go along with this. Those probably would be put off until the following biennium if they are inclined to do them at all. So it's just an offer on our part of an idea that will work and can allow them to give us an increase in actual aid, but then maybe just delay the payments. So those are the proposed changes.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the legislative position statements as presented? Lisa, thank you. Is there a second?
So moved.
Oh, Chris, thank
Second,
you.
sorry.
Any comments or questions? Lisa?
I have a question. I don't know, Dr. Peterson, if you can answer this. Have we heard yet what the legislature is thinking about in terms of their session, if it's going to be different in any way because of the pandemic? Or I know we have our legislative breakfast coming up, but do we have any insight into what that's going to look like in order to allow us to participate in the legislative process in promoting our position statement?
Yeah, Ms. Wagner, we've not heard anything that's going to be changed, but I would guess they're going to change some of the way the committee hearings are held. Certainly the sessions that they hold will be different. They're going to be very cognizant of the the image that they give on how they're handling COVID precautions and so forth. But I don't have anything specific on that yet.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, let's move to a roll call vote.
Board members, if in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Board Member Ambrosen?
Aye.
Board Member Becker?
Aye.
Board Member Holcomb?
Aye.
Board Member Lesage?
Aye.
Board Member Ritchie?
Aye.
Board Member Vitale?
Aye.
Board Member Wagner?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We have our 2021 legislative position statements.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Moving on to the adoption of the policy 522, Title IX, Sex Non-Discrimination Policy, Grievance, Procedure, and Process. Dr. Peterson.
Madam Chair, members of the board, you reviewed this policy at the last study session and indicated that it appeared ready for your final adoption at this meeting. So I would recommend that you adopt it as presented.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to adopt policy 522 as presented?
So move.
Chris, thank you. Is there a second? Mark, thank you. Any comments or questions, changes? All right, seeing none, we can move to a roll call vote.
Board members, if in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Board Member Ambrosen?
Aye.
Board Member Becker?
Aye.
Board Member Holcomb?
Aye.
Board Member Lesage?
Aye.
Board Member Ritchie?
Aye.
Board Member Vitale?
Aye.
Board Member Wagner?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We have an updated policy 522. Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Mike, thank you. Christine, second, thank you. Let's move to a roll call vote.
Board members, if in favor, please say aye. Opposed, nay. Board Member Ambrosen?
Aye.
Board Member Becker?
Aye.
Board Member Holcomb?
Aye.
Board Member Lesage?
Aye.
Board Member Ritchie?
Aye.
Board Member Vitale?
Aye.
Board Member Wagner?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, does anybody have any board reports this evening? Okay, seeing none. Dr. Peterson, Superintendent's report.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I'm happy to report that the first 2 days of the child care program that we implemented when we put all students on e-learning has gone well. It's really, you just have to shake your head when you watch them. It's the kids are so focused on the learning from their teacher over the screen, and they have headsets because oftentimes they are listening to different teachers while they're in the same room, so some of that needs to be screened out. But there are no behavior issues. They're totally focused, and you might go down the hall and see a teacher teaching from her or his classroom. And again, watching their screens from behind them, the kids are totally engaged and just really into the learning. It's quite amazing. And so we're watching not only the kids at school, but those students are at home, and they're all very engaged. And our paras are doing a terrific job of providing that supervision that's needed, and all the other staff, food service and custodial and administrators and all have really done yeoman work to get this ready to go, and it's going exceptionally well. I was going to tell you one more thing about it, and I forgot. So to answer any questions you have about that.
All right, does anybody have any questions, comments? Chris?
Do you have any situations where the teacher that wants to teach from the classroom and the students are in that classroom watching?
Not at this point. No,
Okay.
I don't. Yeah. But they might be next door.
Right, yeah.
You know, for example, today I went from a classroom watching students do the lesson, and in the next room was their teacher, you know, a few feet away, but with a brick wall between them.
Yeah.
But it's you know, it's just fun to see what great work the teachers have done. And the feedback from parents is this is so much better than it was last spring, and we intended for it to be better. We put a lot of work into it in the summer to do a much better model for e-learning, and the teachers had prepared the younger children to make this move, so they practiced, and obviously they have been very successful with it to this point. I know the other point I was going to make, it's just kind of a footnote. You know, we watch each other here on these screens, and our board members are sitting pretty still. You watch kids on the screen, and it's like 25 kids bouncing around on their screen, but they're all engaged, you know, but that's just young kids. Yeah.
That's great, that's great.
I mean, they're not intending to have their face right in the center of the screen all the time. So that's, you know, and the transportation has been great. We have just had a lot of support and cooperation, a lot of happy parents, and those who are not doing that are happy with what they have.
That's great. Christine?
I do have a question regarding the childcare. I know that we have a large number of the students participating, and right now we have the para coverage. Is there any, are there any concerns that we won't have coverage if paras like have to quarantine? I know that we were having issues with substitutes, and that's kind of what put us in this situation. So can you talk a little bit about that?
No, we, obviously, we have the same number of paras we had before, and we have a lot fewer students, so maybe a third of the students we had before. So there really should be plenty of coverage if, even if there's some major issues with paras who can't come to work or something. And we've hired some reserve teachers who are available as well. So I think we're pretty well covered there, considering things we don't know about. You know, we don't know who will be absent and why they'll be absent and so forth.
That's great. Does anybody else have any questions, comments? All right. Did you think of the other thing?
About the kids on the screens.
Oh, the kids on the
bouncing
screens. Yep.
around, yeah.
All right. All right. Well, does anybody have any announcements this evening? All right, I have one announcement to share on behalf of Tonka Pride. Tonka Pride is having an apparel sale next weekend. They will be hosting their apparel sale off in a new location. It's going to be off district property at Peak Travel. So on December 12th, Saturday, December 12th, from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and then on Sunday, from 10 o'clock to 3 o'clock. So anybody can come and get their Tonka Pride apparel. And if you're looking to gift something for the holidays, there'll be some apparel items for people to buy. So, and more communications, the district will help communicate that out too. But just wanted to share that there was a decision to host the sale. All right. Any other announcements before we adjourn? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Chris, thank you. Was that a second? Yeah, Christine was a second. Okay, we'll move to a roll call vote.
Board members, when I call your name, if in favor, please say aye, opposed, nay. Board member Ambrosen.
Aye.
Board member Becker.
Aye.
Board member Holcomb.
Aye.
Board member Lesage.
Aye.
Board member Ritchie.
Aye.
Board member Vitale.
Aye.
Board member Wagner.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, meeting adjourned.